across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good Monday morning to you. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer, and wow, it is December, folks. December. I need a little Christmas tree behind me now. We're getting all Christmassy, aren't we? Certainly feeling like, ooh, is Santa going to turn up? Is he going to, is it going to be coal or is it going to be gifts? Who knows? Have you been naughty or nice? Well, I wonder what's going to happen for Rachel Reeves on Christmas Day. Well, I mean, will her paycheck even turn up? Or will she still be in a job? Big question marks about the future of the Chancellor today, and I'm not really surprised that there aren't, because her own Prime Minister, her boss, Keir Starmer, is going to have to go out in about half an hour's time and defend her. Why? Well, because her job and his jobs are inextricably linked. She's facing the prospect of a sleaze probe after she was reported to the ethics watchdog yesterday by Nigel Farage over false claims that there was a black hole in the public finances of more than £20 billion. It's since emerged that the Chancellor had been told categorically by the Office for Budget Responsibility that she actually had billions to spare. Ministers, not just everyone else saying she's lied, ministers have now also accused both Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, because Keir Starmer knew everything going on, of misleading not just the public, not just the media, but the cabinet as well, claiming there was a hole in the public finances that would justify tax rises, including breaking the manifesto commitment, putting up taxes on income tax basic rate up by 1 or 2 pence in the pound. One cabinet minister has said that at no point were the cabinet told about the reality of the OBR forecast. So, question. After being accused of lying to the public, the city, the cabinet, MP, you name it, with false claims about £20 billion black hole in public finances that simply was not there to justify those tax rises that we all got to hear about finally, officially last week. Should Keir Starmer sack Rachel Reeves? Simple question. Should he sack her? Come on. If she was honourable, she'd fall on her sword. They ain't honourable. She ain't going to fall on her sword. Should Keir Starmer sack her? Question is that simple. And tell us why. If you think she should stay, tell us why not. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Rachel Reeves, feel free to give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged the national rate. Text costs one standard network rate message. That's what I mostly want to talk to you about today. Don't forget, if you are listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, as I say, always fantastic to have your company. Always appreciate it. Don't forget, if you miss anything from the show or missed anything from last week, you can go to my YouTube page, The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show, hit subscribe, and you never have to miss a thing. We're also going to be talking more about jury trials. Very much in the news today, given the judge-led, not a jury trial, of Tulip Siddiq, the Hampstead and Highgate MP, Labour MP, former anti-corruption minister, who overnight has been convicted of, corruption in Bangladesh. David Lammy, of course, the Justice Secretary, have no problem whatsoever with that conviction, although she didn't get an opportunity, chose not to go to the trial to defend herself. It was judge-led, not a jury, but which is what he wants to do for all of us. So thumbs up for that system as well. We're also going to be talking about the Prime Minister's call in about 25 minutes' time for welfare reform. He may have forgotten that he is the Prime Minister. He is able to reform welfare himself, except, of course, he couldn't even get £5 billion of cuts through earlier this year by his backbenchers, and he actually increased spending on welfare by 16 billion quid last Wednesday. But now he's saying we need to reform welfare. Do you have any hope at all that that will happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. As I say, the number to call to have your say on any of the big topics is 0344 499 1000. Delighted to say, joining me today, as always on a Monday, we always look forward to his comments, commentator Sam Armstrong. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, simple question. Should Keir Starmer sack his Chancellor?
Well, you kind of got a question. I mean, if she goes, he has to go too, because anything you can say about her, you can say about him too. But it's the record of lying that jumps through. It's worth just going through the list. She said before the election she wouldn't put up taxes. She now has. She lied. She said when she got in that there was this sudden black hole, which was grossly overstated.
Yeah, out of the blue.
She lied. She said that the economy was going completely down the pan at a press conference a few weeks ago. it now turns out even the BBC, Chris Mason, has come out this morning and said she lied to the public. And now, having put up all of our taxes, albeit many of them secretly, and then secretly putting up benefits for a bunch of people too, she's lying by having the guts to go out there, the sheer chutzpah to go out there in public and pretend to us that she has not just directly, brazenly broken a manifesto commitment that she made to the public. She got the job on the basis that she said she wouldn't put the taxes up on working people, and she has done exactly that.
And there's a difference, and I think for an awful lot of people there would be a difference between, look, she wasn't planning to, and then the public finances were in a mess, things changed, we have the Trump tariffs, blah, 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 things changed, and then she had no choice. And that was very much the message that went, as we now know from the front page of the Times, to the Cabinet. They were told, look, basically, the Office of Budget Responsibility is going to basically say these numbers are terrible, we're going to have to put tax up, we don't have a choice. So we are going to, the various way of doing it is this manifesto breaking increase in the basic rate of income tax. Massive outcry from Labour backbenchers who, no, can't do that. And then they row back on it. And then we discover, when we see all the books last week, that actually things weren't as bad as we thought they were. Now, she crucially pretended that things had changed. Very interesting, the Office of Budget Responsibility said, who aren't very responsible when it comes to leaking budgets 45 minutes early. There's a report into that. We're going to see the results of that later today, hopefully while I'm still on air. How on earth someone pressed send, 45 minutes. Well, actually not even 45 minutes, way too early. You're not supposed to see it until the end of her speech. But they've said, actually, in response to a letter from the committee of MPs, the facts are, they actually use the word the facts are, making it very clear that the claims that had been made by the Chancellor about things changing was not true. Because 5 days before the Chancellor did that early morning press conference in November, on the 4th of November, telling everyone, basically we're in a terrible state. Look, I'm just going to, lay the groundwork for why we're going to have these tax rises. They had already told her that wasn't necessary. What do you make of the defence? And this was given by Darren Jones, who used to be Chief Secretary of the Treasury. He's still working in Number 10. He's a senior figure in government. He says, look, this was done. And Rachel Reeves was very clear last week. She kept saying this was my choices, my budget. I mean, it was very weird, the way she kept saying that. I wonder whether Keir Starmer had asked her to do that. Nothing to do with me, Gov. Darren Jones's defence was, on the numbers that the Office of Budget Responsibility had given, they would only have what's called, £4 billion of headroom. This idea that it's your rainy day money. It's your little, you basically have a family budget. You have if you can, you have some money in savings in case, there's a hole in the roof, the boiler breaks, the car breaks down, the kids need school uniform new that you before you expected, whatever the level of expenditure. And basically saying 4 billion is literally money down the back of the sofa, a small change for a government, and it needed to be bigger, and they've now got a bigger headroom. And that's a political choice, but it's also something that is actually a good thing for the government to have done. And if they'd stuck to where they were and it was just 4 billion quid and they hadn't had those tax rises, then everyone would be criticising them for that and the markets would have gone haywire. What do you make of that defence?
Well, look, I've been in politics for a long time, and here's how it actually works with a budget. In the weeks before the budget comes out, people on the government side of things, people are trying to make everything go well, pretend that everything is much worse than it is every time. When the Conservatives were in power, I was involved in some of that. You try and reassure everyone, you try and tell everyone it's all doom and gloom. And then when the day comes, it's actually not as bad as everyone thinks, and it's all wonderful. And there was a transparent, deliberate exercise by this lot to try and do exactly the same. But contrary to what they'd said, tried to get in, it turns out they're not so competent after all.
No, shocker.
And they managed to go way over the top and then had to row it back and forth about 4 or 5 times before the budget, because the markets frankly don't trust that Rachel from accounts has got a command of the economy. So when they
I don't think she's got a command of even the basics of Economics 101.
I'm frankly worried about the kind of service she provided as a customer service advisor on the telephones.
I mean, seriously, they're just the main message we get from this government is just really not very good. And you think sometimes it's just the PR of it and the communications. No, they're not very good, and they're rubbish at PR, and they don't have a plan, and they're not sticking to it.
But fundamentally, actually, where the taxes are gone, we all know it. The simple truth is what everybody out there understands, which is this government made a decision. And I don't think
political decision.
I don't think it was a planned decision. It wasn't what they went in trying to do, but I'll come back to why they've had to do it. They made a decision to take more money from working people because they literally cannot get any more money from the ultra-rich at this stage. They chose to get more money from working people to give it to those people who are on benefits. Why? Because Keir Starmer, despite having a record majority, is totally in hock to the bunch of Corbynista student union politicians that make up the Labour Parliamentary Party.
Who unfortunately haven't gone to your party yet, in capital Y.
And he attempted back in the summer to make tiny, minuscule, like hardly even scratching the surface changes to eligibility for certain types of benefits and how generous they were. We saw there was that whole big rebellion. A bunch of Labour MPs ended up getting kicked out of the party temporarily. Some of them are back now. And the result is this, that Keir Starmer cannot do anything about the fact that the number of people on sickness, out of work benefits in particular, especially for mental health conditions, is ballooning. And for every single person that goes in there, not only do you have to find the money to pay for them and benefits, but you lose the money that they were earning in income. And as a result, the sums are just increasingly not going to add up. So why does Darren Jones think he needs more headroom? Well, because he thinks that the level that we're spending on welfare is going to go up next year and not down.
And that was the prediction from the Office of Budget Responsibility. I think what's really interesting, and you touched on this, that the BBC political editor Chris Mason this morning, he went on their flagship show, the Radio 4 Today programme, and he said it was his conclusion that the Chancellor misled, in his words, misled people about the state of the economy in that 4th of November press conference that she did first thing in the morning. And, you know, that's quite something. Chris Mason, I've known Chris Mason for years. He is widely respected. I can tell you right now, I don't think anyone other than maybe Mrs Mason knows how Chris Mason votes. Genuinely. He is considered to be studiously neutral and fair and not hyperbolic. And he says the Chancellor misled the nation. Now, added to this, you've got talks about, you know, Financial Conduct Authority being basically, basically, if the government basically gave false information publicly, and I aimed at the city, not just journalists and you and us as ordinary voters, so that the city would be relaxed when they did actually release their budget last week. If they manipulated the markets with false information, that's a crime.
Yep.
That's a crime. So Financial Conduct Authority has been asked to investigate. We've got Nigel Farage, and I think also Mel Stride, the Chancellor as well, but Nigel Farage, Leader of Reform, have asked the Prime Minister to get Sir Laurie Magnus, his ethics advisor, to look into whether or not there's been a breach of the ministerial code, lying to Cabinet, lying to the Commons, lying to people in public. So, we've got Cabinet Ministers saying, look, they basically completely lied to us. This is really, really serious. Can Keir Starmer sack Rachel Reeves, realistically, and stay in his job? Because no one, maybe Keir Starmer, seems to think that he can last in his job past next May. Question marks about him lasting till December. I don't think actually any of the people who want to be leader want the job before the next May local elections, which are going to be dire for the party. But realistically, can he sack his Chancellor when she's going, but you knew everything? She's on record saying the Prime Minister knew everything, and he was in this Cabinet meeting basically. Can he sack her, or is he stuck with her?
I think the reality is he's stuck with her. This is a Prime Minister that has already got too many powerful Labour women in particular sat on the backbenchers with an axe to grind. You've got Angela Rayner, you've got Lucy Powell, Rachel Reeves would kind of complete that triumvirate, and I think that would be fatal for him. But my worry goes deeper, actually, which is I really worry about the future of this country when you have a Labour government elected on such a tiny part of the vote. But this government entered into office, we now know, on the basis of a lie. They lied to us about the kind of government they would be and the kind of policies they would pursue.
I mean, everyone was saying, and not just the other part, not that the Tories in Reform, everybody, every political journalist, every economist, the Institute of Fiscal Studies, everyone was saying their numbers don't add up, they're going to put taxes up.
But I'm sorry, I am not prepared to live in a country in which politicians
blatantly lie like that.
Blatantly lie to the electorate with impunity. I'm not prepared to live in a country.
And they shouldn't be rewarded. I mean, again, we need to hold people to higher entire account. And again, they need to go. We need to start having a rule. If you do actually do the opposite of your manifesto, and again, things like the jury trial thing. We told David Lammy's Justice Secretary, there was some talk at the end of last week that they were going to drop these plans after. Basically, Labour backbenchers don't want it. The public don't want to drop jury trials. The barristers don't. The judges don't. The Law Society. Come on. And then, we're going to go ahead. Apparently tomorrow he's going to go ahead with it.
Jury
but
trials.
That wasn't in the manifesto. There's no mandate for this.
Jury trials have been an ancient right of every English and Scotsman. Both countries have had this system for 800 years or more. And we now have people who tell us they treat human rights very, very seriously, and with a pen stroke, are attempting to steal the inheritance of everybody that has been born in this country, that has contributed to this country, who was guaranteed that the state, the government, the people that run this country, they cannot take your liberty away. The only people that have ever been able to take away your liberty in this country have been your fellow citizens, your fellow countrymen. That is the system we've had. And to end that just on a whim, again on some fake crisis, the courts are going to fall over. Well, how about you put some more judges in courts? How about you open up some more courtrooms? Half of them are sitting there empty.
Everyone I've spoken to is barristers, judges, and I've asked them, they've always said, like, the juries, you've got a whole load of people who are required by law to turn up to jury duty. There's a whole pool of like 100 people sitting there in the jury room waiting for trials to start that don't start because they haven't got the courtroom open or no judges. Exactly. It's a load of absolute nonsense. I don't believe it's going to be allowed to start. I genuinely think it's going to be stopped somewhere along the line. But it's just appalling they're thinking of it. What do you make, though? Talking of justice, Tulip Siddiq, my MP, Labour MP for Hampstead and Highgate, she has been convicted of corruption charges in Bangladesh following her aunt, the former Prime Minister, being convicted as well. She's been sentenced to death in her absentia. She's fled off to India. But Tulip Siddiq's been convicted and she has been sentenced to 2 years in prison. She didn't give evidence in court to defend herself. She didn't go, we have no extradition with Bangladesh. So the argument is that it wasn't a fair trial, but she could have turned up to defend herself, crucially. But the interesting thing, she was the anti-corruption minister. Yes. She was forced to resign because you can't have an anti-corruption minister being accused of corruption by the way, a Commonwealth country, right? But it's what's fascinating. Again, these are judge-led courts in Bangladesh. They don't have juries in Bangladesh. So I don't know what the government can complain about because it's less than 5 years behind bars. So presumably, if Tulip Siddiq was being tried in this country, she would also be tried by a, let's face it, politically appointed judge. Now, we pretend we don't have political appointees in our justice system like America does, but they're blatantly, openly, Democrat or Republican. But no, we do. You can't get a position as a judge now unless you toe the line on lots of issues, the DEI things, certain issues, your career, are you seen as a troublemaker or someone who quietly goes along when the Prime Minister says, throw the book at people over the Southport riots? Genuinely, I don't know how they can say this is an issue and this is not, by the way, also, can we just have a thing? Every reporter saying she refutes these charges. No, she doesn't. She denies these charges. Refuting means she proves they're not true. She has not proved they're not true. She has quite categorically failed to prove anything at all. The government, the court in Bangladesh says she's guilty. Can she stay on as an MP? Because I'm pretty sure that if I was convicted in another country of a major charge and sentenced to 2 years behind bars, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't still be in my job today.
Absolutely, categorically, no. She needs to go. She needs to go today. We cannot have members of Parliament sitting, making laws for all of us who are literally convicted of corruption. Yeah. She is, according to a court, corrupt. And as Keir Starmer was so fond of saying, lawbreakers cannot be lawmakers. Yet, as of now, it's 10:21 on the 1st of December, she retains the Labour whip, despite the fact, a court of law, that she had every right to get on a plane. There's plenty of planes between Heathrow and Bangladesh. Go out there. You say it's not true. Go out there. Look, she doesn't like the court, no doubt in part because it is no longer run by her aunt, who was also just convicted on the basis of recordings of ordering the shooting of unarmed, innocent protesters that were fed up with what they saw as her corrupt reign. This is...
Oh, by the way, and Tulip Siddiq never criticised this.
This is a scandal, an outrage. No, she was too busy flying with her aunt to go see Vladimir Putin, to go get some nice shiny gongs. If this was anybody else, the outrage would be off the scale. The thermometer would have broken.
Imagine if a Reform MP was doing this. Imagine what Labour MPs would be saying.
And by the way, just this kind of just attitude from the Labour Party, oh, it's Bangladesh, it doesn't really matter. Excuse me, I'm sorry, if I said that, I would be accused of blatant, outright racism to say that Bangladesh can, as you say, it's a Commonwealth country. We enjoy close relations with it. If there's a problem with the legal process, point it out. But you don't get to just say, they're foreign, they're brown, therefore the courts are awful, because that is blatant racism.
Absolutely.
And there are members of the Labour Party that are participating in an outright racist smear on Bangladesh this morning.
I have a funny feeling that I don't think their justice system is very good, but it would be nice if she might have spoken out about it at some point when her aunt was there. By the way, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch has been doing a Q&A session with our good friend, the economist and journalist Liam Halligan, about the state of the economy, along with Mel Stride and others. And she has said this about the Rachel Reeves. The Chancellor, says Kemi Badenoch, by the way, I mean, no love lost between those women. The Chancellor appears to have given false information deliberately to try and give her budget a soft landing. If a CEO, Chief Executive Officer, had done this before their annual meeting, they would be sacked. This is why Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride has written to the Financial Conduct Authority. I do believe she should resign because of that. Now, not just giving false information deliberately. I'm wondering how tenable this is. Prime Minister under a lot of pressure. He's going to give a speech very shortly. Hilariously, he's going to give a speech about how we need to reform welfare. He's going to be talking about, oh, we've now got the groundwork laid for reform and for growth. I mean, you've been in power for, for a year and a half now, mate. You still haven't got any. There's no growth. There's no reform. They've just spent an extra 16 billion quid on welfare, and now he's talking about how we need to reform welfare. You couldn't make it up. Can we talk, though, just before we go to break? Because I've just got to talk. I'm loving your party, OK? Jezbollah, it's basically lefty Jezza Corbyn people, along with basically radical Islamists. I mean, and a lot of non-binary people with nose rings and blue hair. Everyone has to state their pronouns before they speak, and they had an annual conference. Absolute chaos. And I mean, Life for Brian does genuinely, Monty Python couldn't have written a sketch this funny, and those guys were comedy geniuses. But in terms of, the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front splitters, I mean, we had Zora Sultana boycotting the first day of the conference of the party she helped launch, as was Labour MP with Jeremy Corbyn, because some of her mates who were socialist worker supporters weren't allowed in the conference hall. She then spoke yesterday. He spoke as well. They're absolute farce, massive infighting already. And then, I mean, big infighting largely between, let's face it, the Islamists and the lefties, because it turns out the Islamists, slightly sexist, not keen on the gays or the trans people, and the trans people and the gays and the women not so keen on how the Islamists treat them. Who would ever have guessed any of this, Sam? But even more hilariously, Jeremy Corbyn generously said he would be willing to stand an election for the leadership. We know Zora Sultana would also like to be leader, but the conference voted by a small majority, 51%, to have a basic committee leadership. So they're going to have 20 ordinary party members, ordinary blue-haired, I mean, come on. And they are going to decide party policy. This is genuinely, you do not need Netflix, people. Get rid of all your subscriptions. You don't need any of them. You no longer need to watch any other reality telly. This is where it's at. This is going to be hilarious.
Yeah, if you want a walking demonstration of why communist countries don't work, the Politburos, the plotting, the backstabbing, the factionalism, you saw it in full vibrant colour. And by full vibrant colour, I mean blue, I mean pink, I mean purple, and that was just the hair.
Yep.
All out on great display. Now, actually, though, here's the thing. I actually think this is very bad news for Keir Starmer, of all people, because what Keir Starmer was hoping was that the left were going to kind of split and fracture up into 100 different things and they were going to be disunited. Actually, what I think this terrible failure of what's about to happen with your party, our party, their party, whose ever party.
Jezbollah.
Their party, must be, can't be he, his party.
They, them.
Is actually going to strengthen the hand of the Greens and Adam Polanski, who is obviously crackers because he believes that he can hypnotise women's breasts to
It
grow.
worked for me.
But other than that, he is beginning to lead, and he has got an incredible reach to young people through TikTok and a number of other things, and he is going to strengthen the hand of the left. And if he does that, Keir Starmer, who's basically betting the House and everything else with it on the fact that at the time of the next election, the Labour vote just has a look at the idea of Prime Minister Nigel Farage and says, no, thank you, and comes back to Labour. If the Green Party are going strong, he's in real trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what I think this heralds in 2 years'
As I
time.
say, it's all going to be hilarious. Honestly, there's doom and gloom. It's a bit miserable out there. People like worrying about their finances ahead of Christmas, but we've got to have some stuff to cheer us up. And thank you, Jez, for that. 10:27 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. I want to hear from you. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. That is the number to call. I want to hear what you make of where we are with Rachel Reeves. Does she have to resign? Should she be sacked by the Prime Minister? Let us know what you think. Up next, after that, we're going to be talking to the brilliant Brendan O'Neill. And in a couple of hours' time, absolutely brilliantly, we're going to have, for the first time, Lucy Connolly on air. She's going to be here on the show. She's going to be talking to us about how not only has she paid the price of that, well, it's, let's face it, a horrible tweet, but nevertheless, a tweet that she wrote after the Southport attack, which left her behind bars for the best part of a year. Her daughter has just been stopped from going to a school because they found out who her mother was and are punishing her by not allowing her to join the school. I kid you not. We are going to, it's basically, it's death, death by affiliation at this point. We're going to be talking to Lucy Connolly live on the show in a couple of hours. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:32 is the time. Just to let you know, Keir Starmer has just started a speech. I know. Why don't we just stop making speeches and just run the country, for the love of God, man? He says the budget was a moment of... Good grief. The budget was a moment of personal pride for me. You put our taxes up and spent more on welfare for feckless families who have too many kids they can't afford. And the budget was a moment of pride for you. He says, I do not want to see a country where children grow up in poverty. No, neither do I. That's why I tell the parents to get a sodding job, like the rest of us do, to feed our sodding kids. Good God, man. You forget. Should Keir Starmer sack Rachel Reeves? Keir Starmer, sack yourself, man. Sack yourself. Put us all out of our misery. And for the love of God, stop making speeches. Run the country. Do your job. Stop telling us the things you're going to do and actually do them, because you never actually do them. You're not going to reform welfare. You just put welfare spending up by 16 billion quid. And breathe. Right, Herbie, take me out of my misery. Herbie's on the line, 0344 499 1000. He's in Harrow. What on earth is going on, Herbie?
Oh, Julie, watch your blood pressure, will you,
mate,
please?
Seriously.
God almighty. Listen, look, the country has been lied to by a government that should not be in power as far as I'm concerned. How can the public trust this party any longer? They can't.
Nope.
They sit in front of the microphone, lying out of their back teeth to the hills, you know, and they don't give a damn. They don't care. They're not ashamed of it.
No.
But what it's done is put a lot of businesses in trouble, especially the entertainment business.
Hospitality is absolutely hit.
The rates, you know, it's going to hit them hard. We are going to pay the price for this mismanagement of government that doesn't know how to manage or run the country anyway. He's never here. I don't know why we don't rent that number 10 to the illegals. He's never there.
I mean, it's only a matter of time. There'll be that many. They've got to live somewhere. Herbie, couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for that. Andrew's in Hertfordshire. Morning to you, Andrew.
Morning, Julia. Well done. Look, if you're being honest with yourself, she's already admitted that she lied. Because the moment she's questioned, she said straight away she goes to the, well, I had to put more headroom there.
Yeah.
So she's admitting that she lied.
Yeah.
And the big elephant in the room, Julia, is this get out a card they've got, child poverty.
Oh.
What's the calculation? It comes from the Resolution Foundation, and that's that Darren Jones that worked with her.
No, it wasn't Darren Jones. It's Torsten Bell.
Torsten Bell, that's right. No one's ever interrogated that number. And it was done in 2011 on a calculation and been given inflation rises ever since.
It's utterly meaningless.
Yeah, exactly. If you're 50p better off, you could be out of poverty. If a child goes to school and it's not eating, that's for social services, not me giving them more money.
Thank you. This is the thing. There's no parent in this country who can't afford to feed their kid in the morning. It's as simple as that. Everyone says all these parents, half of them are working. Well, actually, again, the evidence is that only one parent is working and they're mostly working part-time, and that's why they can't feed their kids. And if you can't feed your kids, stop having more kids. And they've all had those kids. Not one of those children was born before 2017. They've had those kids who are going to benefit. They've had those kids in the full knowledge they're not getting extra money. And by the way, it's £3,500 a year per child. This is not pin money.
No, and the thing that's amazing is in America that Republican said, if you can't feed them, don't breed them.
It's that simple. I think that's what most people think, and that's exactly the choice that most working families make. Andrew, thank you for that. Appreciate that. 10:36 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break, then talk to the brilliant Brendan O'Neill of Spiked Online. This is Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:38 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's talk to Brendan O'Neill now, chief political writer at Spiked Online. Good morning to you.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, well, I'm not very well. Blood pressure's quite high because we've got to deal with Rachel Reeves and her lies to pretty much everyone. I don't know, does she lie to her kids as well? I don't know. Her husband? Who else? She's lied to the Commons, lied to us, lied to the markets, lied to cabinet ministers, according to everybody. Keir Starmer, just a few moments ago, I mean, this blows my mind. He's just given a speech saying, the budget was a moment of personal pride for me. I do not want to see a country where children grow up in poverty, because that's apparently, it's a great thing. We're just giving a load of money to feckless parents who have too many kids that they can't afford. What are your thoughts, Brendan?
Just what a useless government. And, you know, this Rachel Reeves story is actually incredibly shocking. You know, politicians lie quite a lot. We're used to that over the years. They say things that are either not true or they make promises they can't keep. We all know this. But I think what Rachel Reeves has done is even worse, because why did she tell these porcupines about the huge black holes in our finances? She did it in order to make herself look good. When she delivered that budget, she did it in order to save the skin of her own collapsing government. She did it to appease her backbenchers because she's so obsessed with keeping the party in Parliament together. She did it for all these entirely self-serving reasons. And as a consequence of that, she talked down this country. She talked down our economy. She put household budgets and people's jobs on the line by making all these economic statements that had no basis in truth. She risked our daily lives in order to make herself look good for one day, budget day. That is a real dereliction of duty that we haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, this is not public service in that sense, is it? And this is the thing. But again, I think that's one of the things about the Labour Party in particular and the left generally is this, they think they're the good people, the nice people, the only thing standing between, you know, the country and the far right, as they see it, which includes you and me, apparently, and all of our audience, and therefore anything they do is justified. And you know what? They're making sure children don't grow up in poverty, so everything's okay because they're the good people. And if we don't agree with that, we're the bad people. So that's how they morally justify it.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, this promiscuous use of the word poverty, I find it really offensive. You know, you just said a few moments ago that there are no children in this country that are going hungry on a day-by-day basis. That's true. You know, thankfully, the real poverty that we had in this country a few decades ago, as recently as the 1960s, in fact, when people lived in actual slums and really did struggle to make ends meet. Thankfully, that kind of poverty is a thing of the past. Of course, people are struggling, but this idea that if you have more than 2 kids, the government should shower you with money, I find it completely preposterous. I grew up in a large family. My mother had 6 children and we got no benefits whatsoever except child benefit, which at that time was...
And again, people need to understand, you know, that's around the 20 quid mark now. That's not the same as this benefit. This is 3,500 a year.
Absolutely. And I just think there is something actually quite creepy about the government saying, listen, if you're poor, we will pay you to have kids, which actually prevents working families who are working for a living from being able to have all the kids they want to have because they're forking out so much in taxes to help less well-off people have kids. It is such a distorting enterprise. It's absolutely lunacy.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I just want to correct you because you were saying, you know, I don't think there are children who go hungry. I think there are children that go hungry. They go hungry because they've got hopeless, feckless parents who they probably shouldn't be living with, and we shouldn't be encouraging those parents to have more children. But that's not because they haven't got the money. They're spending the money on other things. That is the reality. In terms of whether or not Keir Starmer should sack her or whether she should resign, where do you stand on that?
She's got to go. I think we've got to put a flag in the sand and say this is incredibly serious. And one of the worst things this government has done, and in fact it's been doing it for some time now, is talk down this country and say, look, we're useless, we're rubbish, our economy is a mess, everything's a mess, there's these huge black holes, and only we can sweep in and save things. The impact that's having on external investment, on capitalist interest in this country, the idea that businesses would come here and set up or expand their role, all of that has gone to the wall as a consequence of this government's self-flagellating policies, where they talk down this country all the time. And this speaks to a broader point about Keir Starmer's government. This is a government that hates the country it's governing. It doesn't like the people very much. It thinks we're all a bunch of idiots who vote for stupid things like Brexit, etc., etc. It doesn't like our history, has this shamefaced approach to British history and thinks that our history is just one crime after another. And it has no faith in our economy or in economic growth. This country is the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. And now we have politicians like this obsessing over net zero and saying there's black holes everywhere you look. If you don't like this country, you shouldn't be governing this country. And I really think this government, I hope, is on its last legs.
Yeah, that's the thing. It really is extraordinary, their view of the people. And again, even the people who elected them, it seems to be rather negative, doesn't it? What do you make of Tulip Siddiq, the Labour MP, my local MP, being convicted of corruption in Bangladesh in absentia? She didn't go and fight the case. She's been convicted and sentenced to 2 years in prison overnight. As my guest Sam Armstrong pointed out, the Prime Minister has said many times before they were in office, lawbreakers cannot be lawmakers. She's no longer the anti-corruption minister after the corruption charges were brought against her, but she is still a Labour MP. Her whopping great salary is still being paid by taxpayers. She's still my representative in Parliament, extraordinarily, but she's got a conviction for corruption and should, by all accounts, be in prison. Should she still have the Labour whip? Should she still even be in her seat?
She absolutely should not have the Labour whip, and there's a question mark over whether she should be in her seat. This is an incredibly serious matter. And in fact, it speaks to a broader problem, which is that I think, there are too many politicians in Britain who are engaged in politics overseas. And we see this with, remember there was that story recently about local councillors in the UK standing in elections in Bangladesh as well, I think, and in other countries across the world. That should not be allowed. You absolutely should not be. I know that Tulip Siddiq wasn't involved in politics per se, but she apparently gave advice to her aunt who was involved in Bangladeshi politics.
Very much involved, basically involved in massive corruption, but also involved her aunt in ordering the murder, the shooting of innocent completely peaceful, unarmed protesters against her corruption. There
should be, it's absolutely scandalous. There's no way she should carry on being a Labour MP. And also, the point is that if you're involved in British politics at any level, whether it's local politics, national politics, you should not be allowed, you should be forbidden by law, in my view, from engaging in the politics of another nation, because that creates a clash of interests. And we've seen that with these politicians in the north of England who campaigned recently for an airport in Pakistan. I'm sorry, but what the hell has that got to do with us? And these were the same politicians, by the way, who campaigned against a third runway at Heathrow. So they don't want airports for us plebs in Britain, but they want them for their friends overseas. Clash of interest, it should not be allowed.
It's a very, very good point. Talking of loony lefties, the Your Party conference, I'm sure you were watching it with just the level of hilarity that was there. The Your Party conference, this is Jezbollah, Jeremy Corbyn's outfit. They basically couldn't come up with a name, no one could agree, but apparently they have now agreed it's going to be called Your Party. It's descended into all-out war. They've had the bizarre situation of Zara Sultana, one of the founding MPs, refusing to attend the conference, boycotting on its first day because some of her mates who were socialist worker types, they weren't allowed in. Then it was allowed, they were going to be allowed in, so she gave her speech. And then they had a vote, despite Jez very sweetly and very, with great modesty saying he was willing to stand for election for the leadership, whether jointly or alone, that they decided they wouldn't actually have individual leaders. They would go back to something which worked so well for the Greens over the years. They would have basically rule by committee and a group of, I believe it's 10, it was originally going to be 26, but 10 ordinary members, I don't know how they're selected or found, ordinary members of the party who would then agree on the party positions. I'm obviously thinking I might join and might help contribute. I could unite the party, at least in their hatred of me. But what do you make of this?
We all need a bit of a laugh in these dark times, and it is being provided and then some by Your Party. What an absolute farce. But what makes me laugh about this is that this is a party that claims to be on the side of the working classes, and it claims to be speaking for ordinary people. There has never existed a political party that is more distant and separated from ordinary working people than this party. We saw people going up on stage and saying, I'm non-binary, I'm representing the mad community, I'm here as someone who's trans, etc., etc. This is not the kind of stupid, bourgeois, obsessive politics that ordinary people have any interest in whatsoever. I think most normal working people are thinking, I might vote for reform. And at the same time, they're watching your party and thinking, I will never, ever vote for a party like that.
Anywhere where people are announcing that when a man gets up stage, whatever colour his hair is, wherever his how many nose rings he's got, and it says that my pronouns are she and them. Like, no, they're not. You're an absolute lunatic and no one cares. It is quite bizarre. But genuinely, it's going to be a cold, dark winter and we need something to keep us happy. And it's going to be hilariously splitting the Green, Labour and general lefty and Islamist vote. So I think it's going to be quite good fun for us to watch from our side of the debate. Thank you, as always. Great to hear your thoughts. Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online. 10:48 is a time. Quick word from Sam Armstrong on all of that. What he had to say.
I just love the fact that your party has already decided that it's going to appoint a literal Politburo to run this show. It's like, can we try just moving just a little bit past Joseph Stalin? No, we're going to go straight to the Politburo.
Talk about Rachel Reeves at all today and just cheer everyone up with conversations about it. I genuinely, I love this. But my favourite thing is the fact that, who knew that the trans, right-on, lefty, progressive, inverted commas, brigade were going to at any point clash with basically the Gaza brigade. Who knew that would happen? Who knew that their interest did not actually align? Queers for Palestine, not actually a thing. 10:49 is the time. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Get in touch about Rachel Reeves. Should she be sacked? Should she resign? I mean, if you think she should stay, God, I'd love to hear from you. That will be an interesting phone call. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Up next, we are going to talk to a criminal defence barrister about the fact that apparently tomorrow, extraordinarily, David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, is going to double down and push on with his plan to basically abolish jury trials for most criminal prosecutions in this country. With no mandate from the public, no support from barristers, judges or the public, or indeed Labour backbenchers, it's going to go and do it. But why? We'll try and find out. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense. 10:53 is the time. Let's talk about jury trials. Quentin Hunt is a criminal defence barrister and joins us now. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia.
I have to say, I was absolutely flabbergasted last week when we first found out that the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, was looking at basically abolishing jury trials for most crimes, unless it was the most serious murder, manslaughter, rape and the like. And so the vast majority of criminal prosecutions would be happening with just a single judge appointed to decide rather than a jury of our peers. Something that wasn't in the Labour manifesto, something that, as far as I can tell, no one thinks will actually do what he says it will, which is to speed up the justice system. And yet he wants to go ahead with it. What is the reasoning, as far as you can gather, behind this?
Well, as far as I can see, it can only be money. If you look at David Lammy's previous statements when the government were in opposition, he's tweeted, for example, verbatim, jury trials are a fundamental part of our democratic settlement. Criminal trials without a jury are a bad idea. Those are his words. So to do this sort of U-turn now, at a time we know the criminal justice system is under pressure, but whether this is the solution, I very much doubt.
Well, this is it. We're told it. Look, we've got a massive backlog, and delayed justice is denied justice. And a rape victim and someone accused of rape who didn't commit rape, waiting 5 years to get justice in whichever direction is obviously a bad thing. But it's not a lack of juries. Look, I did jury duty a few years ago. You get a letter, you can defer it, I think, once or twice. That's it. But you have to turn up. You can't get out of it because you're a journalist or you're busy, or you have to do jury duty. There is no shortage of law-abiding citizens who will turn up and required to do jury duty. On the contrary, as anyone who's done it will know, that first Monday you turn up, about half the people are sent home because they're not needed. The reality is they haven't got enough courtrooms because the court system is so underfunded. They can't afford to actually have them open. They haven't got enough clerks and judges and barristers and legal aid, and it's the officials who you'd still need, whether you had a jury or not, who they've got a shortage of, and that's down to money. So the juries aren't the problem.
I completely agree. The problem is that over COVID, jury trials had to stop. Jury trials had to restart, and there was a backlog.
Yeah.
And when there's a backlog, something needs to be done to improve the system. More money needs to be put in. Courts need to be given more capacity. Judges need to be able to sit on jury trials as a priority. Yep. None of this happened. There was a sort of presumption by government that, well, somehow the system will deal with it. Of course the system couldn't deal with it. So we have this enhanced backlog that it appears, aside from a couple of token efforts like Nightingale courts and other systems, didn't really work.
No, but by the way, there was a massive backlog before COVID, before lockdowns. So there was already a problem, and that we were told constantly was just simply down to money. But there's also an inefficiency, isn't there? There's also just, there is this absurd situation where, as the court clerk told me, and all the other jurors when we arrived in court, so these people who are on trial, they're all, they've all appeared in court 3 or 4 times already, and they pleaded not guilty. And today, when their jury trial starts, some of them, or about half of them, it turns out, every Monday, suddenly remember they are guilty and plead guilty. And so everyone's been assembled, everyone's there, ready for a trial that never happens. There is a problem in the system because there are incentives each along the way. The earlier you plead guilty, and the later you plead guilty or don't plead guilty and you get found guilty, you get a higher tariff. Could we not do something, as much as I would be opposed to people not serving a full sentence, but if people pleaded guilty early and you didn't go through all that actually they could get a lot of time off, and we can just try and clear the backlog that way?
I mean, as you've rightly said, there is always that system in place. That system is in place already. Whether there is a greater incentive to plead guilty would be something that the government would have to look at to see whether there are alternatives such as that. But late guilty pleas, I don't think, are necessarily the problem. Mm-hmm. In my experience, it does happen sometimes. It's not always the fault of the defendant. It's not always the defendant who chooses that. Sometimes, for example, the prosecution come up with evidence late, etc. Yeah. But the systemic failures within the system, in my view, are more deep-rooted than just that issue relating to late guilt.
And there is an issue, isn't there, of the public? I mean, I would want to be, if I'm ever accused of a crime I didn't commit, I would want to have my peers to decide on my guilt or innocence, and not a judge appointed. Because as we saw after Southport, I'm sorry, but there's clear evidence now that there is two-tier justice and that judges are making different decisions from juries.
Well, you look at the difference, for example, between Magistrates' Court and Crown Court. There are a certain class of cases called either way cases that can be tried in either court. And of course, magistrates and district judges in the Magistrates' Court are used to hearing cases and do convict, sadly, a lot more often than juries.
But then some people say that's because they've seen it all before. They know they're wrong, and they know they're not being fooled by a jury, don't know any better. That seems to be the argument.
Well, I'm not sure that's a fair argument.
I didn't say I agreed with it.
No. I mean, some would say, on the other hand, that there can be systemic failures in not applying the burden and standard of proof properly, of always presuming that the police are telling the truth when they sometimes don't.
As we know.
Yes, these are problems, and one tends to find in the Magistrates' Court that there are certain presumptions, perhaps, that sometimes shouldn't be there. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Quentin Hunt, criminal defence barrister. I'm going to get Sam Armstrong a chance to give a response to that in the next 20 minutes or so. Don't forget, actually, we're going to be talking to someone who probably would have benefited from having a jury trial not pleading guilty, was Lucy Conley. We're going to be talking to her a little bit later in the show. We're going to be talking more about Rachel Reeves and whether or not the Prime Minister should sack her. Sounds like he's not going to, but should he? Love to hear your thoughts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very Very good morning and welcome back to the show. It's just coming up to 3 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you so much, as always, for your company, whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device. Lovely to have your company. If you do miss anything of the show, you can go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show, hit subscribe, and you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking more about Rachel Reeves, and Keir Starmer has just issued a very, very clear defence. She did not mislead anybody, and very much she said that he was proud of the budget. These people are so deluded. We're going to be talking about whether or not she should resign, whether she should be sacked by Keir Starmer after, let's face it, she lied to the public, she lied to the Commons, she lied to the markets, to the city, and she apparently, according to some cabinet ministers in the Times today, lied even to the cabinet. False claims about a £20 billion black hole in public finances to justify tax rises. Some of those didn't go ahead. There were more stealth taxes instead, but that's what she and the Prime Minister said. So should she go? Should Keir Starmer sack her? It doesn't sound like he's going to. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. You can also send us a message at talkTV on X, and calls to charge the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. We're also going to be talking more about also an extremist cleric, Abdul Qadir Mumin. He spent years preaching in mosques around England. Of course he did. Is believed to be leading Islamic State's global network from a remote mountain range in Somalia now. This comes as Somali forces, supported by the Americans, have been waging a campaign to eliminate both him and his terrorist fighters. But good to know that he was here for all that time, eh? We really need to work on our door policy for this country, do we not? Anyway, that's all coming up. Lots more to talk about, and delighted to say joining me throughout the show is commentator Sam Armstrong. Thank you so much. Didn't get a chance to get your thoughts on the jury trials. We'll come back to that in just a couple of moments, but I do want to talk about where we are with Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. She is accused of basically lying to the public, lying to the Commons, lying to the city, to the markets, in terms of there was this massive black hole, and according to the Office of Budget Responsibility, the independent arbiters of these things. She did a public statement on the 4th of November saying, that we're in trouble, laying the groundwork for taxes to rise, basically so that on budget day, markets would be calmer and everyone would be expecting it. Then, big uproar on the back benches. Note you can't breach the manifesto so blatantly. Preach it in other ways. Do stealth taxes, tax thresholds, other things, but don't actually put up the basic rate of income tax. So they backtracked. Their claim was that, things had changed. The Office of Budget Responsibility had made it really clear. Nothing had changed. And before that November the 4th statement, on October the 31st, they had informed her that there was no black hole. It wasn't a thing. But not only did she lie in the Commons, lie on TV to the public, lying to the markets, which, but also turns out an accusation that she and the Prime Minister, as she said, he was in the know, he knew what the Office of Budget Responsibility said, they lied to cabinet ministers. The cabinet ministers told the Times that she said she had to respond to the world as it is now, not as she might wish it might be. And the cabinet minister said at no point were the cabinet told about the reality of the OBR forecast. Had we been told, we might have been in a position to advise against setting hairs running on income tax and giving the impression to the public we were casual about our manifesto commitments. The handling of this budget has been a disaster from start to finish. There is now a call for an ethics inquiry within government, a financial conduct authority inquiry. I mean, I've got some big questions about, whether she should resign simply just on the basis of what she said in the House of Commons. This morning, the Prime Minister has been giving a speech, long-planned speech on welfare reform. Welfare reform always involves spending more on welfare under Keir Starmer. He has said there was no misleading in the budget process. He says quite categorically the Chancellor did not mislead the public over finances, and he is standing by her. What do you make of that?
Well, let's be really clear about exactly what's happened, because in some ways there's nothing too unusual about elements of what we've seen, which is before every budget, the Chancellor goes out and pretends that they're going to have to do stuff that is much, much worse than they're actually going to have to do. So when they finally get to the budget, everyone says, whew, well, that was bad, but it wasn't quite as bad as I thought. And there is this great act of political theatre. And Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer were the leading characters. We had Widow Tranky and Buttons up there, but they gave a performance that was so am-dram bad it wouldn't have been accepted at the average village parish hall performance. These people went way too far and said we're going to have to put up income tax, which they were never going to do in the first place.
Was it qualitatively different, what they did compared to what any other party or any other budget and Prime Minister has done?
I have never seen it involve the Chancellor themselves. It is normally, you know, pretty shadowy people that do the sort of jobs that I've done in the past that are kind of operating.
Well, the basic income tax rise, we're told, was, well, that was something, that was just something the papers made up. No, the political editors are very clear. We got calls from senior sources in the Treasury telling us that was happening.
And they were told that deliberately. These were authorised briefings. It's a whole pattern. But as Chris Mason, who's, I mean, if the BBC...
Political editor of the BBC, studiously politically neutral.
As he has said this morning, there was active misleading going on by the Chancellor herself in that slightly bizarre early morning press conference that she arranged. She lied, and she did not lie without the express knowledge and authorisation of the Prime Minister. I'm afraid I thought that this government was hypocritical. I thought that this government was inept. I thought that this government was at times plain old immoral. But we have now got a government of liars. There is no doubt. There is not a single honest broker, Labour voice that can come on this show.
You've got a business secretary who thought he was a solicitor. But you had a transport secretary who lied about her expenses.
And an anti-corruption minister that's been convicted of corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to a number. And I know we've got a voice from Labour coming on later, and they have got an impossible task, in my view, to pretend that this government is being honest. But the
Prime Minister has spoken this morning. He's giving his full backing to the budget. He said the budget was a moment of personal pride for me. Now, their whole shtick about this is, I won't want children living in poverty. But children aren't. It's relative poverty, which is a complete, it's a mathematical calculation. But the idea that you've got a load of kids in big families who are now going to be, their parents are now going to get an extra $3,500 for each of the kids they've got, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh kid, when actually, and they're told that these families are working. No, they're not. This is a lie. About half the families are working and half the families have no one working. But the half the families where they do have someone working, in most of those, only one person is working. And that person is doing low paid, fairly unskilled labour and often working part-time. It is any wonder that a couple with 6 kids and with dad working part-time can't pay their bills and expect the rest of us to. It's not a mystery. And we have now just announced, as of last week, that as of next April, those families will get an extra. And again, it's not the child benefit that you get. So it's like 25 quid, I think, for your first one now, and 17 for your second and third and fourth. And that's the money that everyone gets, and it's paid into the mum's account normally. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about £3,500 a year per child. £3,500 of your money being given to families who have chosen to have, since 2017 when the law was brought in, when it actually was enacted, so no child before then got evicted, but 2017, they've chosen to have children that they can't afford and didn't expect to get any extra money for it, and now we're going to give them money for it. If you've got 6 kids, you can get an extra £14,000 a year. £14,000 a year. Just for making bad decisions about your family and your finances. This is insane. And the Prime Minister says it's a moment of personal pride for him.
But Julia, honestly, I think it is plain immoral to take money from families that are struggling, giving up things that they really want to do with their kids in order to schlep it out to people that frankly are making all the worst decisions in life. There has to be consequences for decisions. There absolutely has to.
Yeah.
But do you know what? If the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland turned around and said, look, I'm a mad left-winger and I genuinely believe that I've got a moral mission to make sure that no child ever suffers any consequences at any level for any decision making. If he did that, that's fine. But he now says it's his moral mission to hand out more of our money in welfare than he did than ever before. And yet in the summer, 4 months ago, he kicked out whatever it was, half a dozen Labour MPs for voting to do exactly that.
Yep.
This is a man that is pretending he's got a mad moral mission, but he doesn't even believe in it. He's just sort of walking through life, grasping at causes that he can sort of don.
Yeah.
And is it any wonder that this is the Prime Minister that when Black Lives Matter comes along decided that he's going to take the knee, because it's whatever the fashionable cause of the day is, he's going to don that. And all the while, the only thing that this man has ever cared about is he wants power for himself. And now he's got it. He lied to get it, and he's going to lie through his teeth every step of the way, and the British public are going to suffer. And I really worry that at the end of this, there's not going to be much for a country left.
No, he just wanted to be Prime Minister. There wasn't a reason. He didn't have any particular cause, any particular thing to do. I mean, that's the thing I find extraordinary. But especially this speech today was supposed to be about welfare reform, OK? But it comes less than a week after they've just added £16 billion of your and my money to the welfare bill. I mean, they are paying more money. About £3 billion of that is going to be from, you know, the child benefit cap being scrapped. And yes, there's a lot of money that goes on pensions, but actually the amount of money that is going on working age people, particularly young people who cannot apparently work, not required to even pretend to look for a job. There are quite a lot of people who are just required to pretend to look for a job, to tick boxes. Of applying for loads of jobs, yeah, you're not qualified for any of them, but yeah, you've pretended to look for a job, will give you more money and pay your housing benefit and everything else. But there's a load of people who just, you know, apparently they've got anxiety or ADHD or depression or something. Now, those things in extremis absolutely can stop you from being able to get a job, but not the many millions of people who apparently have got these things in this country. Was it 5,000 more people a day signing on with these sort of sickness benefits? It is not likely. The probability is very weak that we have suddenly got a trebling or quadrupling of the number of people who've suddenly got these problems. Everyone has basically realised it's not worth my while working. I can get more, or at least not much less, by just basically swinging the lead. And yet the government, saying today we need to reform, they have just eased the benefit rules for teenagers with things like ADHD and anxiety. They were required to turn up for education of some sort or training at least 12 hours a week for their parents to get benefits to keep them at home. Now they're not even going to have to do that. I mean, this is absolute madness.
Julia, I understand that I am a nasty, immoral, malevolent person that's just looking after the rich, and that actually these guys are the moral things. Yeah. Because they genuinely believe the following, which is that if there are two guys that went through school together and that one of them at 18 decides to go down and get an apprenticeship as a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician, he's done well, he's doing all of his exams, and he's now making 45, 50 grand a year, which doesn't go nearly as well as far as it used to.
But it's more than a media studies degree gets you.
But he's doing well, and he's really making progress, and he's just about to start a family. He's holding off having a kid at the moment just because he wants to get a bit better. They believe that it is moral to take money from him every month out of his pay packet and to hand it to some other kid who left school and immediately said, oh no, I've got anxiety, oh no, I've got ADHD, I can't concentrate, I can't go to college, I can't do this. So he now sits around playing Xbox, smoking dope, drinking cider all day. Every time he hears of a new little ruse, and there's Facebook groups and TikTok pages and all the rest of it, he's there watching, oh, if I claim this, if I use these magic words, they're going to sign me off for more. All he has to do is every month go onto a Zoom call and say, oh no, I'm feeling even worse, I'm feeling even worse. They think it is right to force the good guy who's done everything right in his entire life, made all the proper decisions, to steal money, literally steal his money and give it to the other one. And they expect me to turn around at the end of it and say, oh, thank you very much.
You're
well
the nice
done.
people.
Aren't you wonderful, Saint Keir? No, it's wrong. It is immoral to take money from people who are working to give it to those who could work and aren't working. It's wrong, Julie. It is wrong.
But also, again, these people claim to be on the left. Well, you know, the famous person on the left, Karl Marx, said something which I completely agree with. I know, never thought I'd say that, would you? You know, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. Now, I ain't a socialist or a communist, I think you can safely say. But yeah, I was raised by parents who had a strong work ethic, and the view was, you know, you had to work. I'm raising my child the same way. My husband was much the same way. It's really, really clear. If you're able-bodied and able-minded, you have to work, you have a job. It is your duty not only to support yourself, not only to support your own family, but to support those who cannot help. So when we're told, well, we need to give money to children in poverty, well, yeah, but why are they in poverty? It's because their parents aren't doing the right thing. I want to take those children out of poverty. You know how I want to do it? I want their parents to, A, start using contraception, stop having more kids. Sorry, everyone else makes those decisions. It's free. We always say we're taxpayer funded. And B, I want those parents to be required to work full time, like everyone else who was trying to make ends meet. I mean, it's just utterly bizarre. And that, I think, is a far more moral position. But we're not the nice people because we're, far right, obviously. So we're not the moral people. But that's where we are. It is extraordinary, and as you say, you expected hypocrisy and ineptitude, but the outright blatant lying. Now, do you think? Okay, question: does Keir Starmer know he's lying? Does Rachel Reeves know she's lying, or do you think they're just so?
Do you know what? I genuinely believe, and in a strange kind of way, I still feel a little bit sorry for them, because I think they genuinely came into office believing the fact that the Tories, they were just rubbish at it, and we're smart and clever and just better people, and if only we're in charge, everything will be right. They then got into office, and immediately it's hit the fan. It's really difficult, and you're just like, oh, Struth, it's actually not that easy to run a major G7 economy that when the economy's in a pretty parlour state because of COVID and
because the last time we were in office, we had all that money and Tony Blair came in. There was just money coming out of everyone's ears, the oil revenues, and it's tough. No unemployment.
And I genuinely think he's a little bit like a cornered tiger or something, just lashing out.
I'd go rabbit in headlights.
But he's lashing out at everyone now, just without a thinking.
Yeah, but that's arrogant. That's the thing. One of the things I find very, very... I find repulsive in our Prime Minister is not just the incompetence and the lack of moral fibre and a spine and any vision or there's nothing there. Is actually his arrogance, and you can see when he's questioned by either members of the public or by journalists or MPs how outraged he is that people are daring to question him. Yeah. He's an autocrat. He's an autocrat in his heart of hearts. That's the thing.
Boy, has he got a plan coming on autocracy.
I know, isn't that going to be fun? There's another great line from his speech this morning saying he's confident that we've walked the hardest part of the tunnel. Mate, you haven't even got into the tunnel yet. Things are going to get so much worse for you. But there we are. He's still saying the budget was a moment of personal pride for him, which is just mind-blowing. But there we are. See how well that works out? Because again, something that might be popular with Labour MPs, not necessarily popular with Labour voters, and we know that certainly with the child benefit cap scrapping. Let me talk also about jury trials. We spoke about those with a barrister just before the top of the hour and didn't get a chance to get Sam Armstrong's thoughts. But David Lammy, we were told at the end of last week the Justice Secretary was going to sort of backtrack on this announcement out of the blue. Well, this leak out of the blue, there will be an announcement tomorrow about basically scrapping jury trials for all but, rape, murder, manslaughter, the most serious crimes. And basically it would just be not even what had been recommended by a Leveson report into Judge Leveson how could we speed up the process and streamline our trial system, which was we would have like a panel of magistrates and the like. No, just one judge. And it would be for, pretty much everything but the most serious crimes. We're told this is going to, cut the backlog. No evidence for that whatsoever, given that a lack of juries isn't the problem. What do you make of this?
I appreciate I've just been quite angry about what's gone on with taxes and the gross dishonesty from this government. But honestly, there is no story about which I am as angry as the abolition of juries. There is no story. And I've said to others, and I've put on Twitter, and I'll say it again here, if this happens, I will leave. I will emigrate from this country, period. Full stop.
I'm going to take my pitchfork to Parliament. I'm not doing the leaving thing. I stay and fight for my country.
Because this government has... Look, they have taken my money and they have sought to replace my culture and they've changed the nature of this country and they've abolished traditions that I hold dear and they've made life worse for children in this country and they've done a number of other things. But so far, they have not done what they are proposing to do, which is to take for themselves the ability to take from me my liberty. Yep. Over my dead body. I'm not having it. Let's be very clear about what this is. For 800 years, we have had a system by which the only person that is capable, the only people that are capable of taking the liberty of anyone born in England have been their fellow countrymen. That has been the English, the British
above
system.
a certain level, so you can still have magistrate court cases.
6 months. I mean, peanuts.
Yeah.
Peanuts is what magistrates can do in comparison. And we have had that concept. It was exported around the world as the best system ever invented. And in a pen stroke, for no particular reason other than, I think, to kind of throw a dead cat on the table, to kind of move the conversation on, this government are abolishing it. They are giving themselves the power to determine whose liberty is getting taken away and not. And there was some research out today from the Free Speech Union, for whom I also work, which I think explains exactly why. It's because juries are only half as likely to convict people who are caught saying the wrong thing online or posting something on Facebook or anything else as a magistrate. A magistrate is twice as likely to convict someone for wrong speak, for thinking the wrong thing, for saying the right thing. And you can see a clear pattern in the data that after George Floyd, after Black Lives Matter, after the left jumped the shark, went into this complete woke madness, the number of speech crimes going to the Crown Court absolutely ballooned, and juries just said, no dice, no thank you.
We don't want to say, we're not convicting people of a crime for speaking, saying something people don't like. No, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is an absolutely, this is such a fundamental part of our democracy. Oh, by the way, that used to be the view of the Justice Secretary David Lammy. He put it on record. This is something we absolutely must stop from happening. There is no mandate for it. It's not in the manifesto. I'm pretty sure the Lords would have the power to help stop this. There'll be numerous court cases to try and stop this as well. I am sure it's an extraordinary thing. I'll actually be interesting to actually ask Lucy Connolly. We're going to be speaking to her in about an hour's time. She, of course, is the mum former carer who was sentenced to served a full 377 days behind bars, and we're going to be talking to her in the next hour. Why? Well, she pleaded guilty. If she'd gone to trial and had a jury, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have served a single day behind bars, although she was going to be kept on remand until she did. But she has just discovered that her daughter hasn't been able to get into the school she wanted. She got a place at a school, but they've taken back the offer of the place. Why? Well, because they found out who her mother was, and apparently the other parents wouldn't like it because they don't want apparently, quote, a racist mother at the school, punishing the child for the sins of the mother. Does the punishment never end? We're going to talk to Lucy Connolly about that. First up, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get to your calls. Then we're going to be talking about lots more top stories of the day. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back. 11:28 is the time. Let's get to your calls. 0344 499 1000 on, Rachel Reeves. Should the Prime Minister sack her? Should she resign? Well, he's just backed her. I mean, full-on backing. The budget was a moment of personal pride for the Prime Minister, apparently. How? But also absolutely confident. He says, that that the Chancellor did not mislead anybody. I mean, even though she obviously did. But of course, he's accused by a Cabinet Minister of also misleading the public and misleading the Cabinet today. Well, let's get your thoughts. Carl is on the line in Liverpool. Morning to you, Carl.
Good morning, Julia.
Morning. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I think what she's done over the past 15 months is played an expensive game of Monopoly with our money. And rather than make us rich, she's made everyone poorer. Yep. She needs to go. She's lied, obviously. She's lied. She's being caught to be lying. And now other ministers are asking the same questions. And when the investigation goes ahead and finishes, I'm sure they'll find out that she was lying. It's just
No, they won't. They'll find some weird terminology about... there'll be reasonable grounds for doubt. You know what they're like.
Yeah, but to come out and say that he was a black hole and now there's not, but it's not just that. You just said then Keir Starmer's come out and backed it. He's complicit in everything to this, so we should really put his resignation letter in alongside his. Which is
why he won't sack her, because he knows that he's basically tied up with her.
Well, when the Chancellor goes, then the PM has to go. We know this already, but I think if she continues in this job, God knows where we'll be within that 4-year period, because, like you just said, he can't sack her. So she's at this very moment bulletproof.
Yeah, and that's, again, I suppose, you've lost your Deputy Prime Minister, you lost your Transport Secretary, you lost your Anti-Corruption Minister to corruption and now convicted. It's getting a bit, he's lost the Chief of Staff, Director of Communications. He goes through staff. Frankly, like I go through shampoo.
Well, do you know what, Julie? Even Dick Turpin wore a mask when he robbed you. Angela Reeves just seems to be doing it.
Rachel Reeves, yeah.
Our faces, so we all can see what's going on, and we understand it more now than ever because we have people like yourselves who are bringing it to the forefront. Yeah. But we need to keep pushing these people and holding them to account, and that's what doesn't happen. We don't hold these people to account. Yeah. To put them under pressure to make the right decisions that they should be doing, rather than the ones that they shouldn't.
But also just the really, really simple matter in public office, if you say one thing and you do the other, unless you've got a darn good excuse, like, Ukraine's just been invaded or we've just had a major epidemic, then I'm sorry. You need to go. There needs to be a simple punishment. You can't say one thing and then do something else, and then we all go, oh, that's fine. We're going to have to hold people, as you say, hold people to account. I couldn't agree with you more, Carl. Thank you for that. Let's get to some of your texts and tweets about this. Should Keir Starmer sack her? Sean says yes, she should go. Stephen says she lies, which makes her the ideal politician. Of course, two-tier Keir will not sack her. She's everything he likes and his loyal minions, incompetent, no threat, and lies constantly. Ouch. Stephen's had his shredded week this morning. Ash says they should both go as he signed it off, quite right. No, says Sam, we need a general election. Steve says everything that comes out of Reeves's mouth must be treated as a lie until proven otherwise. Yeah. Amy says, of course he should then. He needs to be the next one out the door. Becky says, of course he should sack her. He needs to resign as soon as possible too because he signed off on her budget speech and he knew. Tyson says he should sack himself at the same time. He lied about the finances too. And Andrew says, no, people should be grateful we have a talented Chancellor like Reeves. She's just cleaning up the mess Rishi Sunak and the Tories left behind. Well, there we are then. That's a different point of view. I'd love to have that phone call. I don't know if that was sarcastic, though. I don't know. They did leave a mess. You lot left a mess. I'm sorry, you did. Let's take a call, but on a different subject, actually. We were talking about, the Prime Minister's speech today, supposed to be about welfare reform after they've just been cutting the welfare bill, after they've just put up spending on welfare by 16 billion quid by giving feckless families more money for having kids they can't afford, and the announcement, apparently, which we've just emerged today, that they're relaxing benefits rules for teenagers with ADHD and anxiety and the like, to basically say, no, you don't need to do a certain number of hours a week actually do in education or in training. You can just get your benefits, the parents can get benefits for you, no problem at all, which seems pretty insane. Well, Mary is in Plymouth and wants to talk about that. Morning to you, Mary.
Good morning. I've calmed down now. I was so angry 10 minutes ago. I was ranting down the phone. Julia, I have a child with ADHD.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a grown man now. Okay. In those days, the treatment for ADHD was drugs.
Yeah.
The drugs have terrible side effects.
Yeah.
And because he was on a Class A drug, he needed to be assessed every 6 months by the NHS, right? And the last time I went, I said, I've got to get him off these drugs. The side effects are awful.
Yeah.
And the consultant said to me, oh, no, he needs to stay on them because if he doesn't, he'll have no friends, no job and no prospects.
Yeah.
Right? So they're talking the children down all the time.
Yeah.
And I ignored that and took him off them, and we followed our own path.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was we concentrated on the things that he was good at, and we didn't sweat the things that he wasn't good at, right? So we played to his strengths, and in that, I taught him some coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
I don't need the government to tell me what to do or how to bring up my child.
Yeah. I mean, I worry that a lot of other parents wouldn't be so sort of strong-willed as you. Is he doing okay now?
Now, he's 29 years old. Mm-hmm. He's just bought his own house.
Wow.
He's just about to be qualified as an electrician. By the way, he paid for the training himself.
Wow. Well played,
He's got
Mary.
A really fantastic group of friends. This all they're doing is they're saying to parents, your children are not very good, so they don't have to go to school.
Write them off, put them on drugs and write them off on the scrap heap. So I'm guessing you're not happy about the idea of parents being told you can still get your benefits even if you're teenagers don't go to school, don't go to training because they've got ADHD.
They're setting their children up to fail.
Yeah.
From day one, they're setting them up to fail. And the parents need to just grow a spine.
And stand up for your kid.
My child, and I'm going to teach my child how to live a fulfilling life.
Good for you.
It's possible.
Good for you. As Mary, good for you. Well played. Well, he's a very, very, very lucky young man to have you as his mum. Thank you very much indeed for that. 11:35 is the time. Up next, we're going to be talking to the brave Sebastian Selig. He's a Labour councillor and commentator. I'm wondering if he's going to defend both Starmer and Reeves. We'll see up next. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:38 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Sam Armstrong's still with me. Get his thoughts and your thoughts on what my next guest has to say. He's very brave soul. Sebastian Selak is a Labour councillor and commentator, has joined us to, I'm sure, tell us just how wonderful the budget was and how wonderful Rachel Reeves is and how Keir Starmer was right to back her today. Am I right, Sebastian?
My honest assessment, Julia, of the budget is that I was pleasantly relieved. I thought it was going to be much worse. I thought it was going to be a really messy picture. And who could blame me when you look at what they're trying to do? You know, you've got to maintain NHS spending. You've got to meet your fiscal rules. That means getting debt down. It means running a surplus by the end of the decade.
They're not getting debt
got to
down.
fix the cost of living crisis. Well, the OBR thinks they're on track to, which is good news to me. But the point is that they had this mission that involved them being pulled in all sorts of directions. And I'm pleasantly surprised at the picture on the other side.
You're
of it.
pleasantly surprised, pleasantly relieved that we've got a £30 billion increase in taxes and £16 billion of that is going on welfare.
Well, that's what it's taken to get us where we need to be. Look,
Wait. So we need to be in a situation where we're paying families who've got 3, 4, 5, 6 kids, aren't earning enough money themselves, either on benefits or on just living on universal credit, or only dad's working and only working part-time. They can't afford to look after their kids. And where we need to be is where we tax people who are working all day, every day, to look after their families. We tax them more to give an extra £3,500 a kid to those families. That's where we need to be.
So to be clear, you're talking about the
child benefit cap being scrapped. Yeah.
So look, this is the biggest way to fix child poverty in this country.
No, it's not. Those parents getting jobs would solve that.
So 59% of people who receive this, or families who receive this, have at least one parent in work. So
one parent. Okay. Two parents should be in work. Otherwise, why should we help them? And that parent is not necessarily working full time.
So the problem is, Julia, sometimes parents die or become long-term.
Yes, absolutely. We should help those people.
There we go. Then we
well, there are benefits. If there are bereavement payments, and of course, if you're a single parent, there are other benefits as well. We know that. By the way, most single parents do actually work. They're not sitting on benefits. In most of these cases, they have chosen to have children since 2017, when they knew there was no extra money, and they're carrying on having the kids.
But again, the situation changes. You may choose to have a child and then your partner dies.
The vast majority of these people did not have a partner die. They have chosen to have children. They're just not working or working hard enough to support their own children. And you think that where we need to be is...
Do you have the number to back that up?
Yes, official statistics show that a very small percentage. It's around. I actually wrote an article of the Sun. I haven't got the figures right, literally in front of me right now. But it is roughly 10% of the families who are claiming this universal credit and would benefit from this. They have more than one person. Only they have two parents working.
They have two parents working?
Yeah. Most people, half don't have anyone working, and just above half have parents working, but only one parent working.
We're talking specifically about those parents who are dead.
Have more than two children would benefit, therefore, from this benefit. Yeah, I know it's fat. I know these official statistics. I say I don't have these because I wanted to talk to you about Rachel Reeves more. No, this whole nonsense that these parents need to be helped. The only way of helping them. No, the way they should be helped is being told you need to work full time, both of you. And that's how you support your 4, 5, or 6 kids, because it's not everyone else's problem. That's the solution.
Again, if you've got 4 children and your partner's dead, it's quite hard to work full time.
Most of these parents don't have a dead partner.
But this is it. I'm asking you for that statistic.
They don't have a dead. No. Half of these parents, they're 2 parents, and they're half are single parents. Single parents are also supposed to contribute. But by the way, any absent dad contributing, that isn't taken into account by the benefit. So there's no record of how much money they give. It's not taken into account about whether they're in poverty or not.
But what I'm slightly bemused by is you're saying most of these people don't have a dead or ill partner.
There's no reason to believe that. There's no reason to think that.
But you're the one making the point, but you can't back it up with any stats. So it's
no. There's just simply there's no evidence that is the case. So why are you claiming it?
But you're making a point. You're saying this is the case.
No, I'm telling you it is the case. In the vast majority of cases, there are not 2 parents working, and that's why they're poor. So the solution is not giving them money from 2 parents who are working in another family. The solution is them getting a sodding job and supporting the kids they can't afford to have.
Once again, Julia, what I'm saying is many of them are either ill or...
No, there's no
not
evidence
of
for
this
that.
world.
No, they're on universal credit. There's no evidence for that.
Well, hang on. You've said, and I'm sorry to labour the point...
No, you're
but
just
it's really
making up a
important
random family where mum's ill, dad's dead, and they've got 6 kids through no fault of their own. Sorry, you've got no evidence for that.
Let's recap, Julia. I've said in many cases that's the case.
In some cases, it will be the case.
You have said, hang on, let's just work this through without interrupting each other. I've said in some cases that's the case. You've said in most cases that's not the case. I've said, do you have any data to back that up? And so far you've said...
But you have no data to back your claim up.
Well, no, I'm saying that in some cases...
The official stats show...
Dead or ill.
The official stats show...
I don't think that is a radical claim to make.
The official stats show that roughly half are single parents, roughly half are 2-parent families, and in the 2-parent families, most of them, according to the official statistics, don't have 2 parents in work. And there's very strong odds, actually, they don't have 1 parent in full-time work, most of them, because that's why they're on universal credit.
So, look, let's park that. I'm going to give you another...
Let's park the facts, yes.
Well, no, I'm going to give you another fact. 1 in 9 children are affected by this. And
affected by what?
By you.
By affected by what?
By the 2-child benefit cap. They're going to benefit from this. My politics are largely around getting away from Victorian-era slums as possible. And
Victorian-era slums?
In the right direction.
Who's living in Victorian-era slums?
I don't want children to live in poverty. That is my radical view of the day, and that is why I wholeheartedly support this policy.
Well, for a start, they're living in, quote, relative poverty, not poverty. And secondly, the best way out of their supposed poverty is their parents, A, not having kids they can't afford, and B, working harder and longer hours to support the kids they already have.
These are already people, many of whom are in work. They're working
many of them, and most aren't.
In poorly paid jobs.
Okay. So if you can't get a decent job because you haven't got decent qualifications, but we should, so everyone else who's worked hard, maybe worked hard at school, maybe got into a lot of debt to go to uni, they're paying higher taxes, they should be supporting those people, should they?
Were you describing me? I worked hard at school. I went to uni. I racked up a load of debt.
Well, you pay for them all then, mate. I don't want to pay for them.
I'm very, very happy to pay for these
people.
Well,
good for you. Then you lot pay for it all.
Horrible place. I don't envy them one bit.
Well, they should talk to their parents about getting a better job then. Did Rachel Reeves mislead the public?
I don't think she did. I mean, look, we heard from Starmer today and he laid out the figures and he was saying that when they had the productivity review put in front of them by the OBR, there was £16 billion in the red. Now, look, we're not even talking about breaking even here because, of course, we need the fiscal headroom. And we saw last year that £9 billion wasn't enough, which is why we've ended up with £22 billion this time. So to get from £16 billion in the red to £22 billion in the green, that's a big gap to plug. So I can see why they at one point considered raising income tax.
That's not what she told the Cabinet, according to a Cabinet Minister in the room. That is not what she told the public on the 4th of November in that early morning press conference. That's not what the Office of Budget Responsibility had told her on the 31st of October.
You're right. There seems to be disagreement between the OBR and...
There seems to be. No, they have stated the fact that we sent this information on this date. She has claimed that she had different information. They're able to prove in black and white that they did send her that information. So someone is lying.
Yeah, look, there's clearly a disagreement. But if you have that 16 billion hole to fill, you are going to look at other measures. Now, look, unhelpful, of course.
There wasn't a hole to fill. That's the whole point. She and the Prime Minister had seen the Office for Budget Responsibility document. They did not share that with the Cabinet. They did not share that with the public. They did not share that with the markets. They chose to keep that private. They chose to claim that there was this massive big hole and they were going to use that to justify tax rises. Only when there was a big uproar from the backbenchers and the public that they decided to backtrack on that. But they misled the public, didn't they?
So explain this to me, because you've been in this game for a long time. I'm sure you'll have.
Don't consider this a game.
There are two very unpopular things you can do in politics. One is lie, and the other is raise taxes. Why would you do one?
There are other options.
To do the other.
I mean, God knows the level of incompetence and hypocrisy of your the government you support knows no bounds. But she wanted to set the scene, ready to break the manifesto pledge to the public about not raising taxes, and didn't want to outcry on the day. I think my guess is they were going to put out this 2p income tax rise, and when it was 1 pence, everyone would go, "What a relief!" But that was what they were planning to do.
So you think that they deliberately scared people?
Yes.
Deliberately lied?
I know they did. I don't think they did. We know that's what they did.
And then now deliberately try to cover it up. That just sounds completely bonkers.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the government you support.
Yeah, it is. And what I'm saying is I don't buy into your theory.
Don't buy into it. You think that the cabinet minister who talked at the time, they're lying. You think that the there's calls for an ethics inquiry, financial conduct authority inquiry. The public were told something that was categorically, provably untrue on the 4th of November. Untrue. And you think that the Chancellor didn't lie. Why would she say something that was untrue, that she knew to be untrue, because the Office of Budget Responsibility had already told her?
That's exactly the question I'm asking you. If the numbers are there in black and white, why on earth would you lie?
The Office of Budget... No, God knows. Because they wanted to justify raising taxes and busting the manifesto. Do you think the OBR is lying?
I don't know what's going on because I don't...
Well, you should read up on it, mate. You're a Labour councillor. The OBR have written to MPs in the Commons and said, these are the facts. This is what we told the Chancellor. The Chancellor and the Prime Minister in Cabinet and the Chancellor on television on the 4th of November told the public something completely different. It distorted the markets. It affected what investments were made and the value of the pound, the value of our gilts and our borrowing. There was distortion of the markets, distortion of what she was telling the public. And you think, well, there's no explanation for it, so it didn't happen. So she said something that was different from what the OBR have put in black and white. They told the government, but you still think that she didn't lie.
Look, I'm accepting that there are two accounts here. But what would
you can't decide between them which one was the truth. So if Rachel Reeves didn't lie, the Office for Budget Responsibility has lied in that letter to MPs, yeah?
I'm saying I don't know because I don't work for the OBR and I don't sit in number 11, so I've not been a fly on the wall in any of this.
Is it possible they're both telling the truth?
I have no idea. But the point is, we have a budget...
Yes, you do.
Really,
they can't both be telling the truth.
It was very well received. The markets were very
well received.
Of course it was. Have you seen what happened in the markets afterwards?
No, the markets were expecting a complete beep show.
We had the FTSE up.
Have you seen the polls since? Have you seen the polls?
I'm not talking about the top polls.
You're not talking about the voters. They don't matter.
Well, no, we can talk about the voters separately, but I'm currently...
Well, the voters don't think it went down well.
Would you like to engage with me on that, or would you like to move on?
The voters don't think it went down very well, do they?
So Julia, I'm currently making a point about the financial markets. I'm inviting you to...
You said the budget went down well, and then you clarified and said it was the money markets.
Yes.
Fine. It didn't go down well. It didn't go down badly.
And you're choosing not to. Is that because you don't have a counter-argument?
I'm just saying... They were expecting something worse. That doesn't mean it went down well.
It looks a bit like you're floundering when I'm bringing up the subject of the financial markets.
I don't think that's how most people are going to see this conversation, with all due respect, Sebastian. Does it matter what the voters think?
And you're choosing not to...
I've just answered your point about the markets.
Well, what did you answer? Because I
literally just said, I've got... Look, I'm supposed to be already on another interview, so can we just go... Does it matter to you that the voters don't think it was a good budget?
Well, look again. Once again, you're moving the point away.
Well, yes, because I'm trying to get to another subject, because I've already answered your point about the money markets. They thought it was going to be worse than it was. They didn't welcome it. Full stop. Right. Does it matter what the voters think?
Okay, so we're gonna ignore that. That's fine.
No, I literally just answered your question.
Of course it matters.
I've got like 10 seconds. Come on.
Okay, I'll make a final point, then I'll let you go, because I've tortured you for long enough. I'm really sorry. Yes, it matters what the voters think, but it matters what they think over the course of the term of this government.
It's all going to get better.
Long-term plan. This is a long... Well, we have to hope so, don't we? Because economies don't transform overnight. They transform over several years. And the problem is, over the last 14 years, it hasn't got any better. And that's why we're in this mess.
Right, Sebastian.
As I do, these things take time. We have to dig in, because that's
Fingers crossed, eh? Labour councillor commentator Sebastian Selleck, you did your best. All credit to you. Sam Armstrong, really quick response.
Somebody on minimum wage working full-time in this country earns £24,000, £25,000 from next year. If you're earning that amount of money, you can afford to feed your children yourself, to make these decisions. These are people who are not working that. And I'm sorry, in my view, the right thing to do is, before you put your hand out to your fellow working man and say, money please, no, you go and you get a full-time job, and frankly,
you work extra hours,
more than a full-time job.
Exactly.
Go get a second job.
If you want to have 6 kids, that's entirely up to you, but you're going to have to work a lot of weekends. Get over it. But
I've never had a benefit in my life.
Exactly. 11:53 is the time. Up next, going to talk to Dr. Alan Mendoza. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back to the show. 11:56. Well, that went a bit longer than we expected with Sebastian Selleck. So we've actually moved our very, very good friend, Dr. Alan Mendoza, to in about 20 minutes' time after we speak to Sir Ian Duncan-Smith coming up at midday. So time to just squeeze in a couple of calls before the top of the hour, just switching the show around a bit. Mark is on the line and he's in Lincolnshire. Give us a call on 0344 499 1000 about the budget. Good morning to you, Mark. What do you want to say?
Hi, morning, Julia Maddock. How are you doing?
Hey, I love it. Always puts a smile on my face. Thank you.
All right, okay. Right, basically what it is for me is the 2-child benefit cap, Julia.
Yeah.
Because what I'm struggling with all this is, and I think I've mentioned this to you in the past, I've worked over 20 years. I've been on benefits for about 3.5 years now. I have no option. I hate it because I just can't buy what I want to buy. Yeah. But, I manage, I do everything I can, and, all the rest of it. What I'm struggling with is, what the hell are they defining as poverty?
Yes.
Because it seems to be something completely different to what I would consider poverty.
Yes.
Because I looked into this. If you're a couple with 2 kids, you get about 1,200, 1,300 quid a month.
Yeah.
That is not poverty.
I mean, you're not living the life of Riley, but again, the thing is, often people forget, like, the amount of money you're getting, then use your housing benefits, you're not paying your rent, you get your council tax cheaper, you get this and that, and your eligibility for that and this and that. Honestly, these people are raking it in. There's been loads of stats over the weekend about, you have to be on a whopping great salary to be doing better than some of the families without this cap.
I saw one, there was some woman that's on about, I think she's on about frigging 2,000... Yeah, it's about $2,000 or something she's on, just under $2,000
a month. Yeah,
and this lifting of the benefit cap will mean she's on about $3,000 a month, a flipping month.
Yeah,
and I'm Julie. I'm sat here, and I'm like,
why am I bothering? But
I get like I say, I'm on benefits. I've had to live like this for about 3.5 years. I get now the single person payment for universal credit, which is all I originally got, because I've only had the health element of that for about a year. But the original payment, that's only about £400 a month.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Once you get the kids, and for obvious reasons, kids need to be fed and housed and clothed, they get more. But this is the thing, as we know, again and again, if you're on low income, you've got low skills, not going to be getting a high wage job and no chance of promotion, you are better off on benefits a lot of the time. That cannot be a system that works. Mark, thank you for that. Laura Jane is in Hampshire. Laura Jane, really, really briefly, what do you want to say?
Well, I'm sure Ian Duncan Smith will have something to say about this, but we've been here before, those of us of his age. Yeah. And unemployment, I have in Hampshire, where I live, there are many young people trying to get jobs and they can't. And this is going to get worse as a result of the budget. It is only going to get worse.
All those entry-level, hospitality jobs and all of that, those all disappear. But again, a lot of these youngsters, they're trying to get jobs, but they haven't got decent qualifications because they just, haven't been, had good schooling, haven't, got that sort of work ethic. And a lot of them, I'm sorry, a lot of people unemployed are unemployable now, especially the young lads and the young lasses. That's the reality. We need to have a whole rethink as a society about how we're going to do things. We're going to talk about all of that to Ian Duncan Smith up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
afternoon. Welcome back to the show. It's 2 minutes past midday. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, it is fantastic to have your company. Don't forget, if you miss anything of the show, you can go to my YouTube page, Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. No excuses for not finding it. Hit subscribe and you never have to miss a thing. And by the way, if you're worried that your talkTV app isn't working today, it's because that no longer works. We're now on the Talk app. It's just the Talk app. Download that app. You'll get all of your favourite shows and all your favourite podcasts as well. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking more about Rachel Reeves and did she or didn't she mislead the public? She did. And why the Prime Minister this morning has been backing her. We're also going to be talking to Lucy Connolly. She, of course, who served 377 days in prison for a tweet she sent about the tragic Southport killings. She was convicted of a crime, but now that crime is, hitting her own daughter, who's just lost a place at a school. She's been offered a school place. Now she's been barred because they, found out who her mum was. Guilt by association. I didn't think we lived in the Soviet Union. Why don't you just send the family to the gulags and have done with it, eh? We're going to be talking to her in half an hour's time. We're also going to try and find out what the heck is going on in Venezuela, and in particular what is going on with Donald Trump's plan we have this extraordinary amount of attacks on drug cartel boats, but also an attempt to oust the president, Nicolas Maduro, he claims. And what on earth is happening there? And is it going to lead to a war? A lot of people are asking. All that coming up, plenty more besides. Right now, we're going to be talking more about Rachel Reeves. Sam Armstrong is with me as commentator. We just to clarify where we are before we talk to our next guest. We have basically Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, insisting that the Prime Minister gets his ethics advisor, Sir Laurie Magnus, to look into whether or not the Chancellor lied to the public and lied to the House of Commons about, and indeed to Cabinet, it now appears, about what she was told by the Office of Budget Responsibility about a black hole or not. We have Sir Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor for the Tories, writing to the Financial Conduct Authority, saying they should investigate whether or not there was market manipulation. We have a Cabinet Minister, backed by another minister, claiming that the Cabinet were lied to ahead of that November the 4th statement from the Chancellor that we were basically in deep doo-doo and she needed to raise taxes. Question is whether she lied on the floor of the House of Commons. The Office of Budget Responsibility, very clear. This is what we told the Chancellor on October the 31st and indeed back in September. There was no big hole in public finances. She told us there was repeatedly. They have said that is not, they've said the facts are that there wasn't and that she was told that. We know that Keir Starmer was also told that. He has backed his Chancellor today. He says that the budget was a matter of personal pride for him because he thinks this will help solve child poverty. It won't. But he has also said his Chancellor did not mislead the public. Even the BBC's political editor, Chris Mason, who is studiously politically neutral, has said he believes that the public were misled on November the 4th, that early morning press conference. Can she stay in her job, Sam Armstrong?
Well, what we saw was a shabby, cack-handed attempt by the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the second most important politician in this country, to mislead the public for political advantage, to hide the blatant reality that she was attempting to break, and in my view, keeping the thresholds frozen as she has done was breaching her commitment to working people not to raise their taxes. I do not accept that we can just get to a stage where we are casual about politicians who are elected by us to serve us lying to the public. I don't think we can get to a stage in which we just take that on the chin and we acknowledge that as part of our public life.
Just normal.
And when they were in opposition, they were all too happy to call for resignations. And if she lived by the same standards she set for others, she would be out the door today.
Well, we shall wait and see. And let's put that question to former Conservative Party leader, former Work and Pensions Secretary too, still a Tory MP, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, who joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Sir Ian.
Afternoon, Julia.
Should she be sacked? Should she resign?
I think the evidence now has mounted up. She has to go. The least she could have done was to come immediately after the budget to apologise for having screwed up the data that she gave to politicians in the chamber. But in fact, it's gone too far.
She didn't screw it up, did she? She knew what the data was.
Yeah,
she
what I mean is that she just gave a different story altogether. And the point is that one way or the other, She has essentially misled Parliament, which has in my time been a cardinal offence, because Parliament is the public. So when you mislead Parliament, you mislead the public.
Yep.
So that's the cardinal offence that she should resign over anyway. But further than that, in all her public briefings beyond Parliament, she has deliberately withheld the fact that the OBR said actually there wasn't such a major problem and that she had some spare 4.2 billion that was going to be in the accounts. And from the very word go, they had set out to do one very simple thing. They wanted to trail the idea that their accounts, their finances were in such a bad position that they would have to raise taxes. Yeah. All that nonsense about the income tax raise, they weren't going to do that, but they were trailing it as, oh my God, it's so bad.
You think they were never planning to raise income tax by 1 or 2
Not
pence
at all
pound?
like that. Yeah. I think it was all part of a game to re-emphasize the idea that somehow they'd been left with this terrible legacy, that a black hole at 20 billion. In fact, we now discover early on in that process, they were told that there is at least 4.2 billion pounds sitting in the black, as it were, for her to use. So she didn't need to raise the amount of money. And in truth, what she was really doing was placating her backbenchers to pay a lot more for welfare, which is close on to about 60 billion more over the period. And then she, quite right, she broke her promise about income tax, because at the end of the day, raising or freezing national insurance thresholds means more people are gone into upper rate tax. Means best they pay more tax.
2 billion more people just in this parliament. That said, you lot froze tax thresholds, didn't you, for 7 years?
Yeah, I argued about that from the word go. Let me tell you, the whole idea of this was stealth. It was the wrong thing to do then. It'd be far better to come out openly and debate about income tax, not to try and raise it by freezing. And then nobody really notices that until far too late. So governments shouldn't be doing that. They should be banned from freezing tax thresholds on that basis without arguing for it and setting out the...
Yeah, so you argued on both counts. But this is the interesting thing, of course. Rachel Reeves, I mean, it's very unusual for a government in office to be talking down the economy the way that Rachel Reeves has done. We know that this long wait for a budget, much later than it normally is, and all the talk about what we are, it's basically meant that businesses haven't been investing, foreign investment hasn't been coming, people are planning to leave the country, people haven't been spending, consumers not out in restaurants, they're not in the shops. I was at Oxford Circus over the weekend with friends, and loads of people out and about. Barely anyone had a shopping bag. Everyone was just out and about looking around and looking at the lights, but not actually spending. A lot of people just basically saying, oh, we're really worried about the finances because the government's warning us about how bad it is. And it turns out it wasn't quite that bad. Why would they do that? Why would they talk down the economy?
Called self-preservation. It had nothing to do with Britain or allowing British people to be better off. It's all about the government surviving what they believe was going to be a tough time. Their backbenchers were going to balk against a lot of stuff they were doing, so they were trailing their coat to make the bad decisions and then come back from it. It was a game being played out. Well, that's why the budget was delayed, so that they could actually spend more time misbriefing everybody to make them feel, phew, God, that was okay, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the markets were... Everyone was quite relieved because they thought it would be so bad. But of course, the OBR are the ones who've punctured that balloon rather ruthlessly. And we're going to get a report, I think, in a couple of hours' time from the OBR about their early release of their statement, which ruined the whole delivery for Rachel Reeves as well. Can I ask you sort of specifically? I've been arguing about this for a long time about the welfare, in particular the scrapping of the 2-child benefit cap, which was brought in under the Conservatives, came into force in 2017. It's going to lead, they reckon. Some 500,000 children are going to be brought out of poverty. This wonderful thing. The backbenchers are thrilled. The public, including Labour voters, aren't. But what do you make of that decision? Because the Prime Minister said it was a moment of personal pride for him.
No, I think it's the wrong decision. That was brought in when I was there. We brought it in because one of the big problems was people claiming benefits could claim for as many children as they like. They didn't have to make the decisions. I always said, you've got to make work pay. And to make work pay, you've got to set the differentials so that somebody can't sit just on welfare, claiming and finding more and more benefits to claim, and giving themselves, therefore, a reason for being out of employment. The most important thing for a family is that their parents seek work. So in the household, somebody is in work. earning money, because that helps children understand the nature of what has to be done to take control of your lives.
And that would be the best way of getting about poverty. Now, again, but I'm fascinated, and even Kemi Badenoch, actually, I keep shouting at the telly when she does it, for saying, you know, yes, a lot of people are told, but a lot of these families, they are working. But you will know the stats better than anybody, and I've looked at the official stats, that actually, in the vast majority of cases, if there is a parent working, it's like about half single parents. Again, most single parents work, by the way. I know plenty of single parents, including my own family, who've worked the whole time since they've gone back from maternity leave, and dads are often supporting. That's not taken into account in the benefits system, which it should be. You could be getting £10,000 a day, still not taken into account. You can still be eligible for universal credit, but crucially, you know, in most of the cases, roughly only 10% of the cases have they got two parents in work, and even then there's no stats showing whether they're working full-time or part-time, and that's why these people are on universal credit. The reality is they are not working, two parents working to support their families, the way that most who are paying tax to fund them are. That's the reality, isn't it? They're poor because they ain't working.
Well, two things that are very important to state. When we brought this in amongst a lot of other reforms, when I left and before we hit the COVID problem, we had the lowest number of workless households since records began. We were making people make choices, and they were positive choices. You're quite right. The one thing that universal credit does for the first time ever, it allows us to see a whole household's income. Not one person's claiming, but a whole household's income. And you can't claim universal credit if somebody in that household is earning too much money. Yeah. So before, you could separate yourself from that. You can't do that now. COVID punched a hole through all of that, to be honest with you. But the reality is we had achieved a very strong position on work, because we were saying to everybody, with the two-child policy plus other reforms, you have to be responsible for the choices that you make. Yeah. And if you don't think they matter, then fine, but you won't be getting extra benefit for it. You need to go to work. You need to take part-time work and then full-time work. And it's good for the children to know that their parents work. It's more than just money. It's about structure and psychology. And that's why, as I said, we had the lowest number of workless households since records began. And I think what they're going to do with this is not just balloon the budget, which, by the way, is set to astonishingly rise over the next few years, is that they're actually going to destroy a lot of that structure at the lower level. And when they say children in poverty, being in poverty or completely reliant on other people and the state is no particular place to be. You want to get them out because work pays. That's the critical bit.
That's the simple thing. Well, I mean, talking of work paying, we're still paying the salary of the MP for Hampson Highgate. My own local MP, Tulip Siddiq, Labour MP, still has the whip today, despite the fact that overnight she was convicted of corruption in Bangladesh in a trial that took place in her absence. She's been sentenced to 2 years behind bars. She has said it was trial by media and that the verdict was flawed and farcical, but she's still got the Labour whip. She had to resign as the anti-corruption minister once the corruption charges were brought against her. I've got no idea, no way of knowing whether the Bangladeshi judicial system, justice system, is any good. I'm going to guess I wouldn't trust it as much as ours. She chose not to go there to be tried, to give evidence on her own behalf. Should she still be sitting as a Labour MP, or indeed as an MP at all?
Well, I happen to think that the Labour Party should say you need to step away from the party for a start whilst this is going on. If you're going to try and clear yourselves through the court, OK, but you do that not as a member of the Labour Party. That's the first position she's got to take. It's up to her constituents now, maybe put together a petition.
Like a recall petition,
then try and get a debate in the Parliament about it. There are things that they can do about it, but just to dismiss it like that and stay exactly as though nothing has happened does strike me as bizarre. She has been accused of a charge. She has not made any attempt whatsoever to clear her name on this. She's just said all this stuff is wrong and rubbish. And yet we know there was massive corruption going on in Bangladesh at the time.
And that her aunt was Prime Minister and she was close to her aunt.
Yes, and that was the whole point.
Been convicted.
So I think it's not enough just to sit there. She has to make every effort to clear her name, or at least her constituents need to make a decision about whether they wish her to sit there.
I think we should start doing that. Just finally, I want to ask you: you're a former military man as well as an MP. Two former heads of UK Special Forces suppressed evidence of possible SAS war crimes, according to a former high-ranking officer. He's told the public inquiry into estimates of possible war crimes in Afghanistan. The officer said that there were, he was among the most senior in the Special Force. He said he'd passed what he called explosive evidence regarding criminal behaviour to the then Director of Special Forces in 2011, and that no action was taken. Now, this is some of the evidence that has been released. It's only partial evidence, obviously, and some of those who've been accused have said, look, either not responded or have said, well, look, I'm going to give my evidence to the inquiry in the proper way. Should we, A, do you think this is likely, as some of it should, and B, should we know about this, given this is evidence that's been held behind closed doors at this inquiry?
Well, I think this is quite a selective leak. I'm slightly concerned that the inquiry is leaking elements of it or releasing elements of it out, because at the end of the day, they have to make a complete judgment based on all the evidence and a balance of how truthful this evidence may be or how well informed it is. What I find really difficult to understand is why a little bit of this evidence, this bit, has got out when there are other bits of evidence going in the opposite direction. And I was quite impressed by a colonel of the SAS who was on one of the radio stations this morning, and he said to them, look, first of all, we don't know the other side of the argument at all. And secondly, he said the individual concerned, that he didn't name, but he said he knew who it was London-based throughout that time, not in situ, in the territory. So my view is this: I think it's a big mistake for a public inquiry to start releasing bits of information that seem to suit their purposes at this particular point, and not wait until the whole set of evidence is there for the public to look at and judge. And it's wrong to do that. And I therefore would say I don't comment on whether this individual giving evidence was right or wrong. I don't know. What I do know is that a public inquiry should come out with final results, not interim bits and pieces, which we seem to be having quite a lot, including, by the way, in the dreadful lockdown inquiry.
Don't even get me started on that. Serene Duncan-Smith, really good to talk to you. Covered a lot of ground there. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. Sam Armstrong, you and I haven't actually got to this yet. This inquiry into allegations of war crimes by special forces in Afghanistan. There's a report by BBC Panorama in 2022, and these revelations have made it to the media today. But it does appear to be sort of like only one side. It's like the accusation being given, but the defence not being given in one part of this. And yet it's been released by the inquiry. But look, if there has been wrongdoing, we're talking about unarmed civilian men, but men of fighting age being basically shot, or just automatically shot by some of these special forces. That is the allegation. Yeah, and it actually, there was a similar thing that happened in Australia, and there was something down there called the Brereton Review, which is how this has all happened and come about here. I have quite a nuanced view on this, which is I think one of the consequences of war is that the people at the sharpest end get really messed up when they're out there doing serious business. And the longer they're doing it for, the more they get messed up. And that absolutely cannot be tolerated. However, what that requires is you need even tougher guys with incredible ethics, like 1 in a million people to go and lead those men and to lead them in any way they see fit. And actually what we've done in the army is we've kneecapped strong officers, and we don't let them lead men properly anymore. And then what we do is 15, 20 years down the line, we get a bunch of lawyers that wouldn't know the first thing about a battlefield to pore over every little second, and it is an appalling spectacle that costs vast sums of public money every which time we try it. And actually what we need to go back to doing is having an armed forces that is serious about what it's meant to be doing, and war fighting is well led. You empower good leaders. Stop running it by all these policies and lawyers everywhere. Absolutely. And again, armchair generals are living, making judgments after the fact. We'll see what happens with this case. 12:21 is the time. Up next, we're going to talk to Alan Mendoza about a manhunt for a new ISIS leader who, of course, spent years preaching in mosques in this country. Of course he did. We're also going to be talking about the ongoing issue over the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans being banned for, well, it would transpire completely false reasons given by the West Midlands Police. That's up next. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. Talk 24 is the time. Coming up very soon, we're going to be talking to Lucy Connolly about why her daughter, her 13-year-old daughter Edie, is being punished for apparently the sins of the mother by her local school. It's an extraordinary story. Do stay tuned for that. First up, though, let's run through a few big stories with Dr. Alan Mendoza, Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society and now Reform UK's Chief Advisor on Global Affairs. Good afternoon to you, Alan.
Hello, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for moving slots as well, because we, as always, I yap too long and we go on too long.
Never,
you know,
never.
I know. Me, who'd have guessed it? Let's talk first of all about the manhunt for the new leader of ISIS. Yes, ISIS, still a thing, along with Al-Qaeda and indeed Hamas, of course. But an extremist cleric, Abdul Qadir Mumin, who's spent years preaching in mosques around England, is now believed to be leading Islamic State's global network from a mountain range in northern Somalia. But he was here for many years. Oh, good.
Well, it's a magnificent export. I would hasten to add. We've done well to get rid of him, but on a serious note, I mean, it's shocking that he, was at liberty here for so long, and now he's turned out to be the new leader of ISIS, which, as you suggested, of course, is not dead. ISIS is certainly not dead. The ideology lives on, and it's very worrying that somebody, who spent considerable time in the UK is now leading a terrorist organisation that wants to end the UK, amongst other things. So, not a good result for UK PLC, I don't think.
No, indeed. Well, in 2010, he was under investigation by MI5 and he returned to Somalia. But it's interesting, if you think of these people, they're preaching, what difference does it make? He was preaching at Greenwich Mosque in London. Crossed paths with Mohammed Mwazi, known as Jihadi John, and also Michael Adebolaja, one of the two who murdered Fusilier Lee Rigby in Woolwich. I mean, they just happened to, hear him preaching, and they just happened to go on to kill people and join ISIS and the like. I mean, yeah, these people are dangerous. Having these people in this country are dangerous, and there are plenty more like him currently preaching in mosques around the country, aren't there?
Well, here's your problem. The problem is that radicalisation is still proceeding apace. We know the problems this has led down the line on the terror watch list, where 3/4 of the people on that watch list, according to MI5 last year, are from the Islamist wing of our terrorists.
Not far right. I thought it was the far right people who were the problem. No.
Yes, well, you see, it isn't, judging by the terror watch list. So stats, sadly, do tell you other things. But look, we have to be vigilant wherever this extremism comes from. But clearly, we have to accept the idea that radical, Islamist, ideology is not going away anywhere. In many cases, we've seen it perpetuate and grow and develop and radicalise more and more people. And that is, a deep concern for this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they're talking about bringing the ISIS brides back here. So that, again, they go away, it doesn't become someone else's problem, it comes back to bite us in the backside very hard indeed. Let's talk about something else that's just come back to bite us, and that is the growing, I would say, let's call it blatant, they call it anti-Zionism, it's anti-Semitism in this country, extraordinary wave of violence that we've seen in this country against Jewish people, and the incredibly sad news, and this is absolutely heartbreaking, but one of the Manchester synagogue attack heroes, Yoni Finlay, who was one several worshippers who barricaded the doors of the Heaton Park mosque. So I keep saying, why do I do that? Heaton Park Synagogue. Sorry, I've done that. So I do apologise. In Manchester on that day in October, that he was accidentally shot by the police when they shot the attacker. But he's now talking about moving to Israel because he no longer feels safe in the UK. I mean, that is such an incredibly awful indictment against our country, isn't it?
Well, of course it is. I mean, look, in a sense, you can't blame him. I mean, he's just been, he faced death he stared death in the face. He survived, but, that kind of experience makes you think, doesn't it? What am I doing? Can I continue living in a country where people want to kill me on the basis of my religion? It's like this is an appalling indictment on the contemporary UK that this ever happened in the first place. But the warning signs were there for years, Julia. We knew about the radicalisation. We knew about the hatred that was spewing out. We knew this was likely to happen at some point, and unfortunately it did happen to him. And he's, considering it. The challenge for all of the rest of us is to make sure, firstly, it doesn't happen to anyone else, and secondly, we reverse the tide. So it's the Islamist extremists who are driven out this country, not the other way around.
Yeah, indeed. And when people go on marches, through London everywhere, and they're endorsed by mainstream politicians about globalise the intifada and from the river to the sea, that's what it means. It means killing people in mosques. Globalise intifada. Mosques, I've done it again. Apologies, synagogue.
You've got mosques on the brain,
I know, exactly. But it's literally what it means, killing Jews. That's what it means.
Well, globalise the intifada, of course it does. What does that mean? The intifada is, the killing of Jews in Israel. Hence, if you globalise it, it means the killing of Jews anywhere. Those slogans actually have a real purpose, and it's quite obvious that if you see people week in, week out on the streets shouting such hateful things, some people are going to go, I'll take it to the next step. I'm going to take the literal interpretation of that slogan and I'm going to put it into practice.
And they do it, indeed. Well, let's also just talk about the extraordinary. This is still ongoing. This is still such an issue from early November. And this is the West Midlands police decision to basically ban Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans from an Aston Villa match in Birmingham. And the argument was, well, there'd been all this trouble in Amsterdam, and there was, the Tel Aviv fans were part of the problem, and therefore they should be banned. As it was, there was basically the club themselves decided not to take the allocation of tickets, which meant that to a certain extent that problem the PR of it kind of went away. But then it has merged that they relied on a document which the West Midlands Police provided, basically saying, basically there was all this violence. It was caused by these Maccabi Tel Aviv fans in Amsterdam. The Amsterdam police have said, no such document exists. We didn't tell you that. That wasn't what happened. There was a literal, quote, Jew hunt by extremist Islamists in Amsterdam that had led to attacks on the fans from Tel Aviv, and that wasn't the case. MPs are going to be questioning, I think today in Parliament, the head of the West Midlands Police and others, others who made this decision. But what do you make of, as far as we can tell, a completely made-up, spurious excuse being given for banning fans from another country from attending a football match here?
Well, it seems absolutely extraordinary. The police used to be one of the most trusted institutions in this country, and now we're getting stories like this on top of all the other nonsense we've had over the last few years, where it appears that they have fabricated evidence to come up to a conclusion that suits, certain local troublemakers' agendas. I've never seen anything like it, where the police have been co-opted in this way, and it really bodes badly for British institutions, for the sense that the police will present themselves in a fair way. And it's quite right that MPs are questioning them. It's quite right that they will need to be asked what this was all about and how their statement is so at odds with what the Amsterdam police are saying. Yeah. Clearly something's gone awry here and we need to get to the bottom of it.
And again, the Israeli embassy is saying clearly, this decision to ban those football fans was anti-Semitic. End of.
Well, it looks like that from this point of view. And you'll note, of course, that last week there was a football match where, guess what? There was violence from the opponents at Villa Park, and it turned out those opponents were not Israelis, but they were Swiss.
Yeah, and again, but no ban on them, even though they'd been trouble before from those fans. It is extraordinary. Dr. Anna Mendoza, so appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much indeed. Just a quick response from Sam Armstrong to that Maccabi Tel Aviv story, because that is not going away, and MPs are going to be questioning these police officers in Parliament.
Well, it isn't, because West Midlands Police blatantly lied because they've been totally captured. But I think that ISIS terrorists right at the beginning takes us all back to exactly just how naive we've been. This is a guy who's now running ISIS basically basically in Somalia. I just want to read a little bit about his background.
Yeah.
The guy was born in Somalia in 1950s. He leaves Somalia and comes to Europe, goes to Sweden in 2000. He then says he needs asylum from Sweden because he gave an interview, and this is actually true. He gave an interview to an undercover reporter saying that he intended to genitally mutilate his own daughter. Oh. So then he ends up in the UK.
So we took him.
We put him in charge of 2 mosques, and then he says that he's being harassed by the security services unreasonably for being a terrorist. So he goes back to Somalia where he takes over Al-Shabaab and
as a
ISIS.
terrorist.
As a terrorist. I mean, honestly, these are the kinds
I want
of
you to know, if he hadn't left voluntarily, I can tell you right now, an asylum judge would allow him to stay because he's got a genitally mutilated daughter to take care of. No, but that's the reality. We live in clown land. We really do. Talking of living in clown land, actually, it's a lot more sinister than that because, as my next guest will testify, Lucy Connolly, you'll know her name very, very well. She served 377 days in prison for, well, writing a social media post. It was a pretty nasty post, but she deleted it herself. But days later, she was arrested. She was held on remand. She pleaded guilty and then she served time. But, well, that time isn't over. She's been released for a number of months now. But her family is still paying the price, including her 13-year-old daughter. We'll find out what's happened next with Lucy Connolly. Stay tuned. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good afternoon. 12:36 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Sam Armstrong's still with me. I'll get his thoughts on this interview in just a couple of moments. My next guest is Lucy Connolly, as I said before the break, a woman's name who you will know very, very well after she spent 377 days behind bars for a post on X. It was in the wake of the Southport attacks, and it wasn't, I think she will agree, given that she deleted it, not a very nice post. But she served a very long time behind bars, away from her child, away from her husband, away from her work, and being castigated and blamed for, goodness me, everything that had gone wrong in the world. But, well, the punishment continues, and she's here to talk about that. A very good afternoon to you, Lucy.
Afternoon, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Look, I'm going to recap just briefly. We have to do that. What it was you actually wrote on the day about about the Southport attacks, and you, of course, had very tragically lost your own child at first child at a very young age, and you really felt for those parents who had lost their children on that day. And you wrote back in July 2024, mass deportation now, set fire to all the effing hotels full of the B words, I can't say it, for all that I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, then so be it. Now, you deleted it only a few hours later, but you ended up basically being prosecuted, pleading guilty, and then spending 377 days behind bars. But basically, the punishment hasn't ended yet, has it?
No, not at all. I mean, you'd be forgiven for thinking that, once you'd served your time, 12.4 months is a rather long time, to be away from your child. Once, those that have said that don't do the crime if you can't do the time, well, I did do the time, more than the time. And I'm still on licence now under probation conditions, so I'm not technically free until March 27.
Yeah, that's a long time away. And I guess, and bearing in mind, you served a heck of a lot more time than people who actually, some of them, who actually committed physical acts of violence during those riots. And indeed, some of the child groomers, some of the people who've committed sexual assaults against teenagers have got less time than you got.
If they got a custodial sentence at all.
Very, very good point. Now, a lot of people, as you say, would have thought, well, OK, again, do the time and then, you can go on to live your life free. Now, you've appeared at Reform Conference. You've got a lot of fans, a lot of people who very much consider you to be a sort of a free speech martyr. You try to sort of mostly go back to your ordinary life, and especially spending time with your husband and indeed your 13-year-old daughter, Edie. I mean, again, as we know, when you were behind bars, you were not allowed contact with her, which pretty much every other prisoner in similar circumstances, particularly mothers, would have been allowed. Very, very hard time for her. She was going to move to a new school. She's 13 years old, and she was accepted by this new school. And a fresh start, I think, for everyone was the idea, wasn't it? And then what happened?
So the school arranged this this transfer, if you like, and it was done between the two schools, and it was all arranged. Edie and I had gone into the school on the Wednesday. We had a meeting with the deputy head. Everything went really well. He went through everything with her, how things would work at this school, gave her a start date. We signed the paperwork. She seemed to quite like this deputy head as well, which, is progress for her, because she's not great at it's a funny age, isn't it? They're not great at making relationships at that age. So she was quite excited to give it a go, a bit of a fresh start. I won't go too much into it, but, she has gotten with a crowd of people that are a lot older than her, and they are not the best influence on each other. So we just thought it would be, a good chance for a fresh start. Yeah. I'd like to add that her current school have been great. They are in no way at fault here in any way, shape or form.
But the whole family's been through a horrible time. Look, the impact on children when their parents, particularly their mum, is sent to prison and doesn't have, you're not allowed any face-to-face contact, any home visits. Very, very, very difficult. So you had this place at the school. She's positive about it. Good, new, fresh start. Then what happened?
Yeah. So she was given the start date of the 17th of November. All was good. We were going to go to shopping for some new uniform and stuff. And then quite late the following day on the Thursday, I was in the gym, and I got a phone call from not one, but two of the teachers at her school. They were on like a conference call, two of the teachers that know Edie well and know me well. And one of the teachers was in the meeting with the other school as well. She was part of like the integration meeting. Yeah. And she'd signed the paperwork and stuff. And she said, we're really sorry, Lucy, but the head teachers blocked this move. And I was like, what do you mean the head teachers blocked this move? They gave us a start date. Edie's all ready to start on Monday. We're really sorry. And you could tell that they were like really embarrassed and there was something wrong. And I said, well, why? I need a reason. You can't just say, yes, she can go, give her a start date, and then say, actually, no, she can't. There must be a reason. And they were like, well, how do we say this? They were like, look, we're just going to tell you because we feel that we've got a good relationship with you and we don't want to lie to you. They said, these were their words, in a roundabout way, the head teacher has found out who you are. She said that racism doesn't go down well in her school, and that if the other children found out who Edie's mother was, there might be a problem and might be a ruckus. So she wasn't prepared to have Edie at the school. I know that the teacher that had signed it off didn't necessarily agree with that, the deputy head, but obviously the head's the head and they can trump everybody else, can't they?
So that's it. So but they weren't saying we've got a problem with Edie. There's evidence that Edie has been racist to other pupils or written a post on social media. Edie didn't go to prison. It's guilt by association. Edie's mum has gone to prison, and therefore we won't have Edie. I mean, not very Christian and forgiving, some might say.
It's disgusting. Let's be honest. It's about political point scoring. It's about politics, isn't it? You know, and it's irrelevant what you think of me or what I did or what I said. Whether you think I'm the most heinous criminal in the world. The fact is, you like you said, you're not guilty by association. You can't discriminate against a child because of something their parents have done or their mother's done.
Well, it's what happened in the Soviet Union, and then the whole family was sent to the Gulag. It's what happens today, right now, in North Korea. I mean, you know, if one member of the family transgresses, everybody, every generation before and above, extended family are sent to the prison camps. It's just an extraordinary way you punish the whole family for the deeds of one.
Yeah, and you know, schools have very clear laws, inclusion laws and policies, and discrimination laws and policies, and human rights policies, and all of these things. They're not exempt from them. No. You know, they might think they are.
But also, I mean, the children, you know, the children of, you know, yes, you are a criminal by a statement of law, but a convicted criminal. But again, your child isn't. The children of criminals, there are plenty of convicted criminals in this country, and the children go to school and have a right to go to school.
Of course. And what makes, and this is how this, in my opinion, country is becoming now. When did we become this country of people that we're so obsessed with politics, and we literally will take people down and ruin people's lives over your difference of opinion? And that's how it's getting, you know. Oh, you don't like me, so, you know, we're going to make your child's life difficult. I mean, are you going to appeal? Is there any process of appeal? Because I imagine you don't actually want your kid to go to this school. No, I don't. And it was a bit, I think I made a mistake there, because obviously I fired off an email to her saying, you know, how dare you, you know, you're a disgrace to the profession. Anyway, I don't want if that's your attitude, I wouldn't send my goldfish there, let alone my child. And I wouldn't. I don't want her there now, because how could I ever trust that even if that I did appeal it and she did get in, that they wouldn't discriminate against her because they don't like me? I can't take that risk. So she was a bit like, oh, well, I said, I'll leave her where she is. At least I can trust that the staff where she is nurture her and are kind to her and all of those things. She said, well, I'm glad we agree. I'm glad we agree that her current school is the best place for her. You know, she kind of like turned it around on me as if to say, well, that's my get out clause, because you've just told me, oh, I don't want the space now. But I didn't want the space because of her attitude towards me and my child. I'm amazed she was actually a woman enough to take the phone call, but there we are. But it is extraordinary. It was an email. Oh, there we are, then we are. But this is the thing. It's again, you've already been punished for the crime that you pleaded guilty to. That's got nothing to do with your child, and whether or not a parent does or does not like, you know, your views. It's none of their business. I mean, look, I'm sure they're, you know, look, I've had a thing where I've literally had a parent at my daughter's school a few years back making a comment to my husband about my politics, and he obviously gave her, should we say, short shrift, let's be honest. But I mean, I thought it was just such an extraordinary thing to do, you know, at like a gymnastics recital, whatever the hell it was. It was like, what on earth? I mean, I don't bring my politics into the school. I'm just there to, you know. How far we've fallen in this country now. So if you're a criminal or a journalist or a politician, your child is going to suffer because other people don't agree with those political views or those opinions. I mean, that is communism. That is, well, that's sinister. That's properly sinister. Absolutely sinister. And the thing that annoys me the most is those type of people, they just take this moral high ground and they genuinely believe that they are right, that, you know, because I'm such an awful person in their book, you know, it's okay to treat my child like that. She is a child. And the irony is not lost on me that it's those type of people that were saying and say about me, she should, you know, she was a childminder, she worked in education, she should never work with children. You know, that irony is not lost on me. Absolutely. Because I can tell you that I would never discriminate against anyone's child. There's lots of children I'm nice to that I don't like them. You don't like I feel the same way. I'm going to say, I'm going to end this conversation. I'm going to give you an apology. I know you were very wary about coming on the show with me. When your story first emerged after Southport, you know, I was horrified by the tweet that you'd written. I'd like to point out also, though, that when it was mostly reported, and it wasn't the story that I was mostly looking at, I wasn't researching it a lot. They didn't report
quite a lot of, like when you wrote, I felt physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. That was very, very rarely reported. Certainly in the reports I didn't see.
They only like to report the first two lines.
Yeah, they said that, the police had said, in their statements and what was said in court, that this was one of a number of racist posts that you wrote. I wasn't going through your Twitter feed. I went with what the court reporting said, and how significant this message was. And you pleaded guilty. So I'm like, well, there you are then. Well, they throw the book at her. I had no problem with that. I now know, and it was actually as a result of Alison Pearson's piece while you were behind bars, that that actually you were grossly misrepresented by the police. The Crown Prosecution Service have accepted this. That there were numerous people. You're a childminder. You had numerous children from many different backgrounds, including many legal migrants and children of colour, who all put in letters, basically of supporting you, and how you had no evidence of racism. There were no other so-called racist tweets, that you had deleted this tweet of your own volition, and the background that you had lost a child and therefore would be so much more emotionally affected by these children's deaths. And so at the time when I said, yeah, I've got no problem with her going to prison, I didn't think for that long. But I had no problem. I don't
think anybody did.
I take that back. You shouldn't have been prosecuted.
That's appreciated.
And you certainly shouldn't have gone to prison. I so wish that you had pleaded not guilty, even if you end up remanded, because with this change,
hindsight's a wonderful
we still
thing,
have jury trials now, not for long, and the jury, I believe, would, if I'd sentenced out the jury, we would have acquitted you. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, it is appreciated. It takes a big person to, backtrack and say, I got it wrong. So that is appreciated. And this is the case. I was misrepresented in a lot of ways and still continue to be. I have a letter in black and white from Northamptonshire Police confirming there were no other racist tweets, confirming it was one tweet. I have all this in black and white. And, it's on my Facebook page if anybody wants, or my Substack.
It's all there.
If anybody would like to read that letter, it's on my Substack, on my Facebook page. So, yes, I agree. I shouldn't have written the tweet. It was a vile thing to write. I knew that, though, the day I wrote it, hence I took it down of my own accord. I didn't need anybody to tell me that was a vile thing to write. But, we're all human. I was, and still am, extremely angry and emotional about the situation. Yes, it was the wrong thing to do, but please find me somebody in their life that has never, ever said anything that they shouldn't have done or wish they could.
Indeed. Lucy, I think you've been punished, and you've been punished more than enough. The fact that people are still trying to punish your child, your 13-year-old child, for it, utterly disgusting and appalling. I so appreciate you joining us on the show. Lucy Connolly there. Thank you very much, Dee, for that. Sam Armstrong listening to that. Now, you're a big Free Speech Union guy. You've been very much involved with them for a long time. Sadly, we know Lucy Connolly didn't come to you guys before this, and probably would have got her out of this mess. But just in terms of her being punished by the head teacher because the other parents at another school might not like having Lucy Connolly's kid in the school, that is genuinely disgusting.
Look, the left would like us to believe that it is somehow morally necessary that working people in this country are forced to hand over money to make sure that children don't go without PlayStations and Xboxes because their parents are feckless and lazy and work shy. But somehow it's morally right for Lucy Connolly's daughter to be kicked out of a school because of something her own mother did. They are totally incoherent. It is just a political attack from them, and they're trying to put their politics, as Lucy says, into every single aspect of daily life.
Yeah, I mean, is it okay if she goes to the supermarket, or might another shopper object to her being in there? I mean, it's just extraordinary, that, isn't it? We are living in a very, very, very scary time. That's all I can say. Not as scary as Venezuela, though. Up next, we're going to talk about what on earth is going on in Venezuela and what are Trump's plans. That's up next. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is indeed Talk, the home of common sense, for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. We've just got a couple of minutes left, so let's try and find out what the heck is going on in Venezuela and what is US President Donald Trump's plans for Venezuela after he said, well, the airspace, as far as we're concerned, is closed, and he's been ordering the bombing of the so-called drug ships coming out of Venezuela. What is his plan? Let's talk to Matthew Bryce. He's a former White House official. Afternoon to you, Matthew.
Hello, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, look, the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, has said the US actions are an attempt to oust him. US president clearly doesn't think he's legitimately elected in the last elections. What is going on? We've got bombing of drug ships, saying that the airspace around the country is closed. What is Donald Trump's plan?
Well, nobody knows. It's not even clear if he has figured out what his plan is. But clearly part of it is to pressure Maduro as much as he can. Now, whether he's doing that to try to curtail drug activities, which really is something that Maduro does lead in government, that's one thing. It could be he's trying to force Maduro to flee, to intimidate him and frighten him. He may be trying to negotiate with Maduro. Trump said he had a phone call, in fact, we learned today, with Maduro in recent days. Or Trump may be preparing for the U.S. military to bomb the drug-producing facilities and maybe some military facilities. All those options are on the table, and Trump hasn't articulated a set of goals.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, whether he knows what his plan is. He says he's the president of peace, not war. 8 wars he claims he's helped to stop, but a lot of fears that he is going to actually launch a war against Venezuela. There are legitimate concerns from the US administration, though, about the number of drugs that are coming in from Venezuela. What are the drugs, and how much is the president in charge of that, able to control that? Because let's face it, it is a basket case country, isn't it?
It is a basket case country, and a lot of that is, to be fair, thanks to Maduro's policies. Nonpartisan think tanks for a decade have talked about how the government of Maduro and the military are in cahoots with the drug gangs because Maduro wins the loyalty of the military by letting them make a lot of money in the drug trade. So
that's how it works in that part of the world, basically.
It is in a lot of countries. So then how much of a threat does that pose to the United States? Trump is saying enormous threat. I mean, if you look at the analyses, though, of late, most of the drugs produced, first of all, overwhelmingly the drug produced in Venezuela for export is cocaine. It's not fentanyl. President Trump has justified these aggressive tactics on needing to cut the supply of fentanyl, which is deadly in the United States. It's responsible for an epidemic. But it's cocaine that's produced in Venezuela, and most of that is exported into the Caribbean, not to the United States, and to Europe. So it's sort of a red herring to say Trump's going after the drug trade because that poses a threat to the United States. One more key point is President Trump has announced that he wants to pardon the former president, Juan Orlando Hernandez of Honduras, who was convicted of drug trafficking and is sentenced to prison for 45 years in the United States.
So make your mind up on that front. Do you think, just finally, yes or no, is this going to end up with a military attack on Venezuela, do you think?
I do think so. I think Trump now kind of has to do something. And I've talked to some people in Trump land, but I think it'll be limited. It's almost to save face. My guess is he's going to bomb remote airstrips like in the jungle that the drug trade uses and their laboratories.
A show of strength. But of course it won't make any difference because we are talking about billions and billions of dollars being made in the drug trade. Matthew Bryce, thank you for helping us try and make some sense of that. Former White House official Matthew Bryce. I mean, it could be the next war where we're all going to be watching Sam Armstrong from behind.
Yeah, I was in DC a few weeks ago and I met some state